Hello my gorgeous friends on the internet, how you are doing? Okay, today we are going to look at how you can create a pool application. I believe you have used LinkedIn, you have used Twitter, where they create a pool and users can actually select the pool. So you can just have something like who will win the World Cup, and you have two options, maybe let's say Portugal or let's say Ghana, yeah, countries like that. Then you can select Portugal will win and stuff like that, yeah. Then the pools will be available for everyone to see. So I believe you already know what pools is. So that's what we're going to be building. This is more like a beginner's course, yeah, where you can learn how to use Flutter. But if you are actually an intermediate developer or an advanced developer, you will also get some few parts or few points that will be useful for you. I believe we all don't know everything, right? So there are some few things we encounter and we say, aha, I learned this today. So that's what we are going to be building today. Complete pools application. So I'll be using Firebase for this. I will be storing our application, all our data to Firebase and all that. So basic feature of this app, the first thing we do, it's a login page. So this is the completed version already. All right, so you click on login, it will ask you to, because currently I'm using social auth, which is Google sign up, and so it will ask you for an account. You just create, I think so far I've already created some other pools already. So once it authenticates you, you have access to the app. Okay, so once you're in, it fetches the available pools that other users have already posted. So with here now, you can actually click on each pool to actually vote. When you click, if you click to vote, the percentage will increase. This total votes will be counted, and if you click on this one, the total votes will increase, the other one will reduce, and total votes will increase here. All right, so you can also, this is the date that the poll was created, the user that created the poll, that is the author, and this is more like the question of the poll and the two options. So you can also share this to your friends. So the poll actually uses dynamic link to generate a link. So when you click, and it will get the ID, and whoever clicks on that link, it will redirect them to this particular pool, yeah, that you share to your users, which is awesome. So the account is just a simple log out button that will just log out, and we have my pools. So from here you can add a new question. You can say who, okay, you can just say hello. Let's just use that word, because then you can have your first option. So let me say option 1, and we can have option 2. All right, so you can specify the duration, like how long you want this pool to last. So you can say 21, yeah, let's say like November 21, 2022. Yep. Then you post. Once you post pool, it will be available. Pool posted. It will be available here. Okay, so you can see my pools. No, it's not supposed to be. I think we need to actually refetch the. Yep. So once you go to home, you will see all the pools that users have posted already, and you can see 0% total votes 0. So if you go to my pools now, it's going to show up here. I think it takes some time to load, and it's going to show up here. So for each author that posted, you can actually delete your pool. Yeah, so if you click on delete, pool will be deleted and to be gone. Once you go here, you won't be able to see that pool again. All right, so from here now, you can actually vote for your pool recorded, but so far it's not increasing automatically. So we are going to see how to handle that in the tutorial. All right, so if you go here, you can see that 1% total votes 1, but normally this is just a tutorial. So I think I will give you guys an assignment at the end of this video, more like a user that posted a particular poll is not supposed to vote on that poll. Yeah, so you guys are going to do that. So if you see now, if we click again, it still keeps counting. So that's more like an assignment that you guys can do. So once you're in your pool, you cannot vote except you go to the home page. That's the only place you can actually vote, right? So and to count as a vote for you. So it's not like updating real time here. But so far, guys, you guys are going to see how this is going to be done. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much the introduction of this. All right, guys, I think we are ready to start now. So the first thing we are going to do is to create our project. So I'll bring up my terminal. I normally create my project via terminal. So I'll navigate to my document directory, to my external projects. Okay, I think it's more like a dummy projects. Okay, so inside dummy project, I'll just create a new app. Flutter create my pools. Okay. Yep. So just give me some few seconds for Flutter to do its magic, and we'll have a new project. So while this project is running, I need you guys to know that we'll be using Firebase for this. So we need to register our application to Firebase. But so far, I think I already have what's it called? I've already like initialized Firebase, like in terms of like my console, like Firebase CLI. Yeah, I've already initialized, set up Firebase CLI. So if you want to set up Firebase CLI, it's very simple. I think the first thing you need to do is to install your npl package, and you can run that, activate. You can just go through this overview to see how to set Firebase CLI up. And once you set it up, creating Firebase to initialize Firebase and set up Firebase is very easy. You don't really need to go to the dashboard to do much work. All right. So right now you can see we have a new app up and running. So this is just a simple Flutter application, nothing much, nothing to actually see here. It's just simple app. So but before we get started, there are a few things we need to set up, and I think we need to set up the project structure for this application. So looking at this UI now, you can see this app has first thing a splash screen, right? Application page where you can click on login to login, and then it has the home page, like the main activity page, where we have three bottom navigation bar. We have home page, we have my pools, and we have account. So as a beginner, before you start your app, you need to make sure you actually get the structure, like how you want your app to look like. You need to get, because I build apps like my own personal app. I don't really involve a UI or UX design. I'm more like do everything myself. So I like sketch everything out, okay, the way it works. If it's an app that already exists, I more like get some inspiration from other apps out there to just get idea of how I want it to be. So I compare their pages, and then I come up with my own. But this is just simple stuff. I really didn't look up anywhere. So it's more like you sketch what you want your app to be. So it has a home page, my pools, and accounts. So the accounts, I just added the logout button. And then for the home page, you can see it has the author name on the share button. It has the question, the two options, and the total votes, right? And you have the percentage, all right? Then inside my pools, it has the same UI, but now it has a delete button, right? And if you click on this button to add, it's more like a floating action button. You can add a new pool, right? So far, users cannot edit a pool. You can just delete a pool completely. See how to like structure our project to suit what we want, all right? So the first thing we want to do inside our main.dat is just to, for now, let's just leave it like this. We are going to update it later, okay? So let's just set up our project structure. And in case you don't know how to structure your project, I have a video tutorial on that. I'm going to put it in the description below, all right? So the first thing I want you guys to do is to define your screens, okay? So this screen represents where we are going to have all our UI, our pages, everything is going to be inside this directory. So the next one is actually providers. So remember, I'll be using provider package for managing our state. So we won't be using set state anywhere, all right? So if you also don't know how to use provider, I'll be putting the link to the official documentation. And also I have a video tutorial on that. I'll also put it in the description below, all right? And so also we are going to create a styles directory. So this is just going to hold all our colors. So if you're using dimensions like let's say font sizes and all that, you can also add them inside the styles. Like you can name it dimensions and all that. So since our styles is here, we can add colors.dat. So inside here, we're just going to define, we'll create a class and call it app colors. And inside here, we can define our color. So the first color we'll be using is more like blue, which is like the primary color of the application, okay? So you can just call it color, so you can say so whichever colors you are creating, you just have to create them inside the app colors, all right? Make it static so that you don't have to initialize the class anytime you want to call the colors, all right? So the next thing we're going to do now is to create a util class. So this util class is just going to hold all our utilities and everything that is needed, even router and all those stuff. So inside that, we are also going to create a widget, so in case you want to have some kind of a custom widgets and all that. But I think this app, there's nothing like a custom widget so far, so we are just going to omit that guy. But if you have custom widget like custom button and all that, you can just put it inside the widgets directory. All right, so that aside, a few things that will be needed while we are going on, we are going to create more providers like authentication provider, the bottom nav provider, to help us to like change the state, and also we'll be creating some kind of DB provider to store the user's data and all this stuff. And inside utils, we'll be creating some other utility class like to display message to the user. We are going to create that. Also to route user from one page to another, we are also going to create that. And we'll be using dynamic linking to actually, in case a user clicks on the link that we share, to just take them to the direct pool. All right, so we'll be using dynamic linking for that. And I already have a video tutorial on dynamic linking, so you might want to check that out, to see how it works. Okay, I will also put it in the description below. All right, guys. I know most of you will be saying I actually have videos for everything. No, I don't really have videos for everything. I just, so moving on, we have our util class. So the first class we are going to be creating, which is very important, I think it's a message, because we need to show users messages, right? It can either be a snack bar, it can be whatever, anyhow, or a toast, or whatever way you want to show users your message. And secondly, we use a router. So grab this somewhere. So I'm just going to explain it to you now. So we have the next page. So this next page is just to navigate the user to the next page, maintaining the previous route. Okay, so we are not going to remove because Flutter, navigating in Flutter is more like a stack. All right, so once you go to the next page will now be on top of the previous one. Okay, so if you navigate to another page from that last page, it will not come on top of it. All right, so if you click on pop, it will remove the first one. So it's more like last in, first out, something like that. That kind of. And so for push and remove until, once you navigate to another page, it will remove the previous page entirely from the stack. All right, so if you click navigator.pop, it will close the app completely, because there is no other stack that it's going to fall back to. All right, it's just going to be completely empty. So where we will be using this is more like when a user is navigating from splash screen to home page, or when a user is navigating from authentication page to the main activity after authenticating. So we don't want the users to go back. All right, so we just take them to home page, and whatever you are doing, if you want to close the app, to just pop you out. All right, they will be using this one to navigate users. I'm using Cupertino page because I have that book. I like that book feel, when you're navigating through pages. All right, so the next one is more like the message, the that. So I'm using a snack bar for this, and we have our app colors, the red and primary colors. Sorry, remember this is the UI. I've created this app before, so I'm just trying to like show you guys easily how it's been done. So for showing error, you just have to call error, and the color is already red, so you just have to pass the string and the context, and the snack bar will show. So you can, if you later in the future you want to change the way your messages are shown, you don't really need to like change it everywhere within your app. You just have to come here and either remove the snack bar, then add maybe a toast or a different type of message package you want. Just add it here and it will be triggered. All right, so what we need to do now is to like we need red, and we also need the primary color. So we need to import this guy for showing success response. Then for error, I think we need to actually have another color inside our main.dat. So this is going to be inside our app color, this is going to be colors.red, all right, to show error. So you can define as many colors as possible inside here. All right, so the next thing we are going to be doing now is to define the pages that are needed. We need a home page, my pools, and account. So inside I think we'll be doing that inside the screen util, the screen class, So inside the screen now, I'll be creating the first page, which I will name, this is like a directory, not a page, so I will name it authentication. So inside this authentication, we can create another file, call it auth page. All right, so we are just going to have our auth page .dat. So this is where we are going to define our authentication page. If your app has login, sign up, you can put all of them inside here. All right. I know this video is going to be pretty much long, like more than 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be worth it. All right. So the next thing we are going to be creating is the bottom nav pages, because this bottom nav should have different pages on its own, right? So we need to actually create that bottom nav pages to make everything simplified. All right, bottom nav pages. But assuming you have a drawer, you can also create drawer pages to just like make everything easier in case someone else is picking up your project. So we have bottom nav pages. So inside these bottom nav pages, we are going to create our home page, my pools and accounts page. All right. So I'm going to create them as a directory because the home page can have other sub pages. So we want to append them inside our home page, right? So we just have home. Yeah, we just call it home, and yeah, that works. We'll just call it home, and inside here we are going to have my pools. No, this is supposed to be a directory, not a file. So we create a new folder and call it my pools. And inside here, we can just have accounts. So remember, if you're creating a settings app, it more like has sub pages, create accounts, edit profile, and all this stuff. So you can actually append them inside the accounts page. So our home page on a normal, it should have homepage.dat. Yeah, which we actually represent this guy, and the same thing too will happen inside my pools. So we can just have my pools .dat. All right, so my accounts too should just have accounts, which is like the first page that the user would see. So after creating that, we are going to create another page, more like if you come to my pools now, you will see a new page, add new pool. All right, so I think that should be inside my pools where we have add new pools. Okay, right, so we can just add our new pools inside this page, right? So you can see how everything is being simplified and easy for us to access. So the next thing now we are going to create is the splash screen, which is needed. So since splash screen is not really tied inside the bottom navigation page, we can just create it inside the screen directly. So we can say splash screen .dat. All right, so here we can just create our splash screen and all that. So moving on, we also need to create our main activity.dat, which is actually going to handle all these guys. All right, this main page where we'll have the home, this and that. All right, so we are also going to create it inside main activity. Much done with the structuring of the folder. I think while we move on, as the project gets bigger, we'll start adding more directory, more classes and all that inside to just simplify everything. So if your screen, once you open your screen, you can easily access the authentication pages. You can easily access all the pages inside bottom nav. Yeah, you don't really need to stress yourself over that. And you can access your main activity where we'll have all these bottom nav. But that is not what we want to do next. So the next thing we are going to be doing now is to actually add the different dependencies that will be needed for this project to work. All right, so far you can see we are only using 7 dependency for creating a pool application, right? Yeah, so it just everything is just cool and simple, right? So quickly we are going to run this app to see how it builds, but I think just going to see how it builds. So I'm just going to run this app quickly because we already have our main.dat, right? We already have main.dat here, so I think it's just going to do everything. So for now, the only thing we are going to see, it's more like dummy Flutter application. Okay, nothing much. All right guys, so we have our app running, and so far there was no error, there was no issues. I think in your own case, I think the only error you might encounter is more like maybe pub and store error and all this stuff. But once you're pretty much good at it, everything will go through. But so far, I think I didn't really encounter any error while running the app for the first time. So that was pretty much cool and exciting. I really love that. Okay, so next thing now we are going to do before doing anything else is to create, like, connect our app to Firebase. Right, we have already added all the dependencies that are needed for this project, the Firebase dependency and all that. But for us, before we can actually use Firebase core and the rest of them, we need to set up our Firebase console, right? Okay, so all right, I'm gonna quickly remove this guy. All right, so inside here we are going to create a new project. Make sure you're already signed up to Firebase. So I'm going to create a new project right now. Enter your project name. So I'll call this one pools, and I confirm, I continue, select account and all that. All right, so if you still don't know how to connect your app to Firebase, my method is going to show you, and also you can take on my previous videos to see how it's been done. All right, so I'm going to add all those videos that were mentioned in this particular course inside the description. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and see it, play around it and all that. So also, if you don't know how to add CLI to your code, I think I won't be covering that, but I'll just show you how to create a Flutter a Firebase project, initialize Firebase in your app using CLI instead of you going all those routes of downloading stuff, installing it and all that. So it's very easy in case you want to add it for Android and iOS. Very simple, okay? And also initializing it will be so clean. All right, so it will give us access to Firebase options on that, and yeah, we are good to go. All right, so the first thing you want to do is just create your project. And once you create your project, stop here, don't do anything again. Okay, you have your iOS, Android, because before you would just want to click and then add all these stuff yourself. The only thing you need to add yourself now is just this debug sign-in certificate. All right, but we're going to leave that for now. So this is our project, and you can see nothing has been added. So I'm going to go over to our app now, and the first thing you want to do, and I think I need to do too, it's more like so we say Firebase login, okay? And once you click on login, it's going to ask you allow Firebase to collect CLI usage and error reporting information. Okay, you click yes, and automatically your own might not really show you this stuff automatically. You might want to like click on this button that take you to the next page. So what you're going to do now is to actually note the account that you actually used to sign up inside Firebase. In this case, it's actually this first one. So I'm just going to click on it to actually give me access to it. All right, so once I click, you allow Firebase to connect, and it will show you Firebase CLI login successful. All right, so once you do that, you go back to your code, and you can see you have this response success logged in as. All right, but if this is not the account you want to use, feel free to run a Firebase logout, and it will log you out from this account. Then you can run Firebase login again. So once that is done, we're going to run Flutter fire configure. Okay, once you run that, did I run anything wrong? Flutter fire help command. Okay, the configure was not spelled correctly, so it's from my end. So I need to put arrow there. So run it, and it's going to show fetching available Firebase projects. So just give it some few seconds to actually fetch all the available projects that are needed. So you can see it's going to list all the projects that you already have inside your Firebase console. But so far we only have one. So I'll use the arrow key to control that and hit enter. And then you can select the platform you want to build for. But it doesn't matter. Any platform you click is going to automatically generate it for all of them. All right. So I'm just going to click iOS. And you will see it's going to add some few files for us that normally, assuming we use the normal route of creating it from the console, we are going to add those things manually, but this one is going to generate them automatically. All right, so note some few things has been added. Firebase, okay, let's hold on a little bit. All right, so it will ask this file Android blah 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 and this, so just type yes for that, which is why just type yes, and it will click. You can see your Firebase app ID, Android app ID for web and all this stuff. So if you scroll down now, you can see it has created a new file for us, which we can call Firebase options, that has been generated automatically for us. And you can see how we can initialize our Firebase app inside our main main.dat. Okay, so I think if you also go through this documentation, it actually shows us how to initialize it too. So you might want to copy that. Okay, and you can see everything has been generated, your app ID key, your API key, and all that. So if you go to your Android folder, you will see that it has already added this guy for us. Let's see, Google services.json has already been added for us. So if you also go for Android, iOS, sorry, you should see that it has also added, I think it's inside Runner, you will see the Google services info.plist. So it has already added these guys for us. So we don't need to do anything again. So everything has already been added. So moving on, what we need to do now is just initialize Firebase to allow us to use it. So go to your main.dat. So inside here, I think I'll just have to clear this whole project. Okay, so we are building a new app from scratch now. So what we need to do, void main, I will initialize Firebase inside the main.dat. So first thing I do is like calling widget binding widget binding, widget flutter binding, widget flutter binding dot ensure initialized. All right, once that is done, we can now call our Firebase dot initialize app. Make sure you import Firebase core, and make sure you import the Firebase options that was automatically created for us here. All right, so inside here now, I'm going to quickly create our main activity that will just like handle everything that will be needed for us. Okay, sorry for that. So what we need to do now is just to create a simple my app, and we just use a stateful widget inside there. So it's going to be stateful widget, and I'll call it my app. So inside here now, we're just going to have our material app. Okay, very soon, since we are using provider, we are going to wrap it with multi-provider soon. Okay, so but I think it's better we just do it now. Maybe just leave it empty for a start. So let's use multi-provider, and we have our providers empty, and then we have our child, and we can just return a material app. Okay, in there. So inside the material app, we can have our home directory, which is going to be the splash screen. Okay, because it's going to be the first page that we need to see once a user comes into our application, right? So once that is done, we are going to quickly navigate to our splash screen page where we have this guy. Okay, so I'm going to quickly import the material app. So this is also going to be a stateful widget as well. So we're going to have call it splash screen. Okay, so inside here, I'm just going to quickly import the splash screen. I think the spelling is wrong. So okay, so you want to make it a constant, yeah, so to avoid that error. Okay, so my app is not a subtype of stateless widget, just run hot restart and everything should be working. Children is not empty. Okay, so this provider needs something to be there. Yeah, this provider needs something. So okay, I think from a start, since we have not created any change notifier, or what I need to do first, I think it's empty. What I would do now is to go to, hold on guys, quickly, let me wrap this guy with scaffold so that we won't have any white or blue something. So inside our provider, I'm going to create, because the first provider we're going to be creating is more like the auth provider, right? Yeah, they're actually going to handle the authentication. So we just call it authentication provider. .dat. So inside here, I'm just going to have a simple class, and I'll call it auth provider, and we'll extend change notifier. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it empty for now because I want this error to go out. So yeah, nothing is actually there. We are not doing anything. So quickly go to your main activity. Inside here, we just create a change notifier provider. And inside create, we'll pass our context, and you can return the provider class. Okay, So this works. Quickly import it and we are good. So we start and everything should be cool. All right, so let's quickly go to our splash screen and do the magic there. Okay, so our splash screen now, we need a body, right? Yeah, it will need a body. We'll just use a center widget because for now we don't have a logo, so I'll be using the Flutter logo for this. So just return Flutter logo. I think Flutter logo is a class, an inbuilt class inside. So make this constant to get rid of all those errors. And yep, we have our Flutter logo, but this is not what we want. So since it's a splash screen, for a specific duration, we actually need to navigate the user to any other page. But since we have not connected we have already connected Firebase here. So what we need to do quickly is to go to our project, okay? And remember, we have initialized Firebase. So restart this guy, and you should see that everything has been added. The UI is going to change. You can see it has registered for Android, iOS, and web. So what I need to do is actually to set up authentication. Remember, we are using Google Auth here. So we are going to set up, currently there are no users, so get started for authentication. And we are going to go over to Google, enable Google Auth, support for the email address, and save it. Also remember, for Google Auth to work, you need to add your SHA-1 key, and it's very important you add that. If not, you can see you need to configure your SHA-1 certificate. All right, so to do that, we are going to quickly go to our project here and go to project settings. Scroll down, you can see the SHA certificate fingerprint is not added. So click on see this page, and it will give us a kind of command that we need to click. So one tip I want to show you guys now. This thing is actually for adding in this for macOS and Linux. So once you go to your project, don't worry, I'm going to come back to what I want to show you guys. So we just have to run the command. So if you don't really need this for iOS. If you're building for iOS, you don't need it. You only need it for Android. Okay. So what you need to do now is to ask you for password. So you just type Android and it's going to generate the SHA-1 key for us. Okay, but just chill a little bit. I'm going to show you guys what. While I'm adding this, let's say you have already signed your application. You're building for Android, and you want to release it to maybe you don't want to release it to Play Store first. You just want to send an APK of your app to users. Then you sign your app. You need to generate the release SHA-1 key as well. Okay, because this one is only for debug. It's not going to work. So you need to generate a SHA-1 key as well. And to do that, you just have to go to the same thing you will see for release. So you just have to pass your key name and the path to your production key. Then it will ask you for password. You just have to add your key password, okay, that you generated. Then you also add that again to your SHA-1 key. Then secondly, if you publish your app to Play Store and you enabled manage my account, you enabled it like that, like allow Google to manage my account from Play Console. You also need to add the SHA-1 key. I think there's a place you go from the dashboard. There's a place you go in the dashboard that you will see it. Then you need to add it here too for it to work when your app is installed from Play Store. Okay. And that aside, also if you change your IDE, let's say you are using Android Studio, you also need to add your SHA-1 key too. Okay, you need to generate for Android Studio and then add it for it to work. Okay, so that's how it works. That's just a tip I wanted you guys to know. So the first thing we want to do is actually to check if the user is actually authenticated. Remember, this is Firebase. Okay, so we need to check. First of all, create an instance of Firebase auth.instance. Firebase auth.instance, okay, dot current user. So we just need to get a current user. So I'm just going to create a simple method that will handle the navigation for us. Okay, so the navigation needs to happen after every 3 seconds. Okay, so we just have a duration seconds 3, and so inside here, and I'm just going to check if the user is actually null. That means the user has not created an account with this application. Okay, so we're just going to navigate the user to the auth page. So for now, I have not created the auth page, so we need to send them to the auth page where they need to authenticate. Okay, all right, so just navigate them to that page. Else, if the user is already authenticated, we'll navigate them to we'll just navigate them directly to the main activity page. So this should be next page only because we are coming from splash screen. And this one now we just navigate the user to main activity page. Okay, but for now we have not created our main activity page, so I'll just comment all these guys. And so I will quickly create the auth page so that the user can actually authenticate and actually perform other actions. So we'll go to the authentication page, and inside here I'm just going to create just import first material app. Okay, so inside here, and I'm going to quickly create a stateful widget. STF. Okay, I'll call this auth page. All right, so that is created already, so we can quickly go to our splash screen and import it. Okay, all right, so we are good to go for that guy. So I will quickly go to the auth page now and just make this one a scaffold widget. So it's just going to be a simple button, you know. So I'll just use center and maybe use a gesture detector that once it's tapped. Okay, once it's tapped, we can do other things. So we have our child. So I'm just going to quickly create a simple container here. So the container will have a height and a width. So the height, first thing first, is going to be around 50. And let me give you some decoration. So we have a color. So we have the app color. Remember, we already created a color constant. So we have app color, the primary color. So we want it to be blue. And I'll add some few border radius. Sorry, I'm going to quickly show us how this guy looks. And circular, I'll just call it 10. Okay. So save this guy and let's quickly, okay, let me set a width, a height, for a width so that you can actually see it. So let me give it 100, not too big. So run. So we'll go back to our splash screen because this stuff needs to be called inside the init state. So I'll have to create an init state here and we call navigate. Okay, cool. So let's quickly do a hot restart. I think we're actually done with, we are actually going to come back to this splash screen because remember we'll be navigating to main activity and also performing some action. So from the splash screen, after 3 seconds, it will just take us to this page and we are going to see, after that, we're going to see this button. I think we need to add some child to it. So I will call this one login. Cool. You need to be centralized. Let me add some alignment. Cool. Yeah, we are good to go. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is actually to handle this button so that when the user signs up, and so I think I'm going to complete the authentication flow before we move on to the home activity and then create everything that is needed. So from here we are going to be creating authentication provider class. So this one is actually going to handle the sign in with Google. All right, so so what we need to do, and also the logout as well. So what we need to do now is more like creating the sign in with Google stuff because we already added our app and registered everything. So I'll go to authentication provider. So I think this chain notifier is not really necessary because we may not be using it. Okay, so we are going to return a future of user credential, but typing this will actually take our time. So I'll show you how to get that from the documentation. So from the documentation, go to authentication and scroll down to social auth. So you should see the first thing you need to do is to add the Google sign in, and here you can see the sign in with Google. So just copy this guy real quick and go to your project. So we don't need to create this guy, so just paste it here. So make sure you already added the various dependencies that are needed, so you can go ahead and add them in And cool, so this is pretty much it and nothing else to do. So after this, remember the user needs to log out from the account page, right? So what we need to do is just to like create another method. So I'll call this one future of boolean. It returns a boolean, so I'll call it logout, and I'll call it async. And so from here now, we're just going to quickly try some few things, which is more like to try to log out the user. So we just call await, and I will call Firebase. We need to sign out from Firebase auth. Okay, dot sign out. Okay, and also we need to sign out from Google sign in. Okay, and I think it requires a client ID for it to work for iOS. So if you are for Android, you don't really need to add client ID. You can just go ahead and call sign out. Okay, and it will work. And once we are done, we can just return true. So we'll be checking for the response when we want to log out. So return true. Then if there's an error, we can catch it here. Maybe to actually know what the error is, you can print the error message and then you can return false. Okay, awesome. So for this sign out to work, what we need to do is more like to create a client ID. No, not inside here. Client ID. For you to actually access this, make sure you already have Firebase options for it to work. So we can just call default Firebase options, okay, dot current platform. Then we can say dot iOS, right? iOS client ID. So that works pretty much fine, and we are good to go. And we also need to do the same thing when we want to log in the user, right? When we want to sign the user in. Remember, this only works for iOS. If your app is only targeting Android, you don't really need to do all these ones that I'm doing now. Okay, so you can do the same thing too for iOS, and it will be cool. All right, but before iOS sign in will work, we need to add some few things inside iOS directory. Like if you go inside your info.plist file, there are some few things you need to add inside there, more like the reverse sign up stuff. Okay, so let's quickly go to plist file. We need to actually add the key that will enable us to use social authentication for Apple. Okay, so you need to add, hold on, let me quickly grab this guy. I think typing it in will be a lot of work. So inside here, paste it. Okay, so it starts from here to here. Okay, key CF bundle URI type. Okay, and if your project already have URI type, you just have to add this guy, URI scheme. If your project already have URI scheme, you just have to add the string that represents your reverse client ID. So this is not what we are supposed to add. To actually add this guy now, you need to go to actually get your own reverse ID for your project. You need to go to your Google service info.plist, and you will see reverse client ID. Okay, so this is what you want to add. All right, so just copy it and go back to your info.plist. You need to replace it with this guy here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for it to work. Okay, so while we have added that, I think we need to actually kill the app and rebuild it again to get those flows, everything set up. So while it's building, I think the next thing now we need to do is to, okay, something is property list error, font non-key inside this JSON text did not start with array or object, an option to allow fragment not set. Okay, what are we doing wrong? Let's see our info.plist file. Okay, so we have this. Okay, sorry guys, something is wrong. This guy is actually, this UI launch storyboard name is actually part of this launch name. So we are going to remove this guy from there to give it access to its string. So I'm going to put it inside here. Okay, yeah, so once that is done, we can run the app again. And let's see, because this one is like a child to this guy, and this one is a child to this guy. This array is a child to this guy, so you want to make sure you don't make those mistakes. Okay, so let's give it some few seconds to run, and once it's okay, we can go over to our auth page here where we have this button where's our authentication page, right here we can quickly authenticate the user. So while it's building, I think I can actually call the authentication provider class, okay, auth provider dot sign in with Google. So I think this change notifier is not really necessary, yeah, but let's just leave it because we wanted to like help build that profile, what's it called, multi-provider. Okay, so for now the user is null, it's taking us to login page. So let's see how to authenticate the user, and then we start the main development, which is like adding, creating the pools and all this stuff. So we have our auth provider class. Okay, inside here you can now call dot sign in with Google dot then. So once there's a response, okay, we can just check once there's a response, we can just navigate the user directly inside our app. But first thing first, we need to check if the value.user is null, because the user can just try to log in but they didn't select any email account. Okay, so you can just check if value.user is equal to null. So if it's null, we can just show an error. Remember, we already created a message, right, to show error. So we can just show a message like please try again. Okay, so this can happen when there is an internet connection or something like that. So once that is okay, we can now navigate the user next page only to kill the backstack, and we can take the user to main activity. All right, so we are pretty much cool and fine now. So I think the next thing we need to do is more like to take the user to the main activity page. I remember I already created the main activity page, right? So let's quickly import Material app here, and then we create that page. It's going to be a stateful widget too. If you want to use a stateless widget, no problem. So we can use a main activity page. So inside here we can have a scaffold, and we have our bottom navigation and then the body, right? So let's quickly leave those guys like that for now. So quickly I'm going to go to the auth page and import this guy, and we're also going to do the same thing for a splash screen. So if the user is already authenticated, we can just take them to the main activity page directly. Okay, all right guys, so this is pretty much okay. So let's do a hot restart here, and you would see that it's going to take us to the auth page, right? So I'm going to log in. You can see we have this guy wants to use you to show your app. It wants to use google.com to sign in. You click sign in, and you can select the account that you want to sign in. We click this first one, and once everything is authenticated, it's going to take us to main activity. So now if I do a hot restart, it's no more going to take me to the auth page, because now the user is no more null based on this check here. All right, cool. So the next thing now is to modify the main activity page. Okay, so this guy, even if we build it on Android, is still going to work, but I think we're going to get some kind of issues, but I'm going to do that towards the end of this video. Okay, so that's what I'm going to test with the Android build. All right, so moving on, what we need to do now is actually to modify our state, which is like the main activity. So I'm going to quickly create, remember we are using bottom navigation that represents home page, my pools, and also the, what's it called, the accounts. All right, so inside here, and I'm going to quickly create a list, and I'll call it bottom navigation bar item. Bar items. All right, so I'm going to call this, it's going to be private, okay, for this class. So the first one I'm going to do is to call bottom navigation bar item. So inside here it takes an icon. So the first icon which we are creating is more like icons.home, okay, and it takes a label as well. So this is going to be home. All right, so I'm going to do that for the three others that we have, which is my pools. So inside here we're going to create the list of pages that the users are going to navigate to, but before then let's quickly create our bottom navigation bar. And now I'm going to return the bottom navigation bar item. So the items now just going to be these items that we created below. Okay, and then we're going to have the current index. So the current index, for now, let me just make it 0, and we're going to have on tap. So when the user taps on each of them, it returns a value, and we can use the change notifier to actually change the state of that value. So you can see now we have our 3 buttons. Right now nothing happens because when we tap, nothing really happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to create the pages for each of these bottom nav item. Okay, so I'm going to create, the first one is account page, home page, and the rest. So inside home page, I'm going to quickly create main activity material. Okay, so we're going to have a stateful widget, and I'll call this home page. All right, so it's still going to be a scaffold widget, sorry. And we have a body, so I can just call this one a simple test of home page. All right, so this works. Instead of writing this one after the other, I'm just going to quickly copy it and add it to each pages. HTML, why are you here? Let's remove this guy. It might cause some errors. Okay, so my pools, I will change this to home pool. And this one going to be, I'm going to change the class name to, all right, so that works. And we'll do the same thing again for account. So the account page is just going to have account page. Okay, that works pretty much fine. And this will be home account. All right, so now we have all the pages that are needed for our bottom navigation. So what I'll do now, I'll go to the main activity page. So inside here, I'm going to create the pages. So it's going to be a list of widgets. So it will represent the body of our main activity. Okay, so I'm going to call this, the first one, you can see is home page, my pools, and account. So make sure that it's actually accordingly. So I'll say home page here, and I have my pools, and I have account page, like so, and close it up. Okay, so quickly we are going to return the first body widget, which is going to be pages, and we can pass the 0 here, which is like the current index. Okay, so by default you can see that stuff is hidden. Home page, it's not supposed to be like that, so I'm just going to quickly wrap this guy with the center widget, okay, to just get rid of all this stuff. So do the same thing here, wrap it with the center widget as well. All right, so we have home page, but nothing happens. Okay, so by default, in normal me, before we want to use create a variable here, let's say you have an integer current index. That's like in normal me. Okay, we'll create the current index to be 0, then inside here we'll put the current index. Then inside here, I will quickly run and call set state and say current index equal to the value that was changed. And this one we'll call it current index. And so pretty much fine if we are working with set state, and everything should be good and working, you can see. But this is not what we want. We don't want to use set state. We want to use like a provider because we already have the state notifier already. So what we need to do now inside we already have provider dependency, so we want to manage state effectively. So what I'm going to do inside here, I'm going to quickly create a bottom. So in case of you don't know how to use now provider, it's very simple, it's very sweet. Provider Liverpool is very cool. You really enjoy them. So we'll quickly create a bottom nav provider, and I will quickly extend change notifier. Okay, So provider is actually dependent on classes, you know that. Okay, so for bottom nav provider, I'm going to quickly register it inside my main.dat. So inside here we are going to register the same way we did for auth provider. So I'll call this bottom nav provider. Quickly register it. I think it should restart, and once you register it, we are going to create our provider. So the first thing we are going to do is to create a current variable, call it current index, and I'll make this one, set it to 0. Then we'll create a getter. So let's say current index. So this one will be accessed from any class that is using provider. Okay, so I'm going to set it to this guy, so it will be listening to the changes of this current index. Okay, so quickly I'm going to create a setter. I'll call it change index, and it takes int value as a parameter. Then I'll quickly reset this. So once a new value is attached, we are going to quickly update the current index to index. So once this current index changes, we'll quickly call notify listener. So this notify listener is still like set state rebuilding the notify listener. So it's going to, like, once we call notify listener, it's going to assign this new value, like trigger any provider that is listening to this provider, like any provider that is listening to this class. So it's going to like change the state and notify it, and the value will be changed. Quickly, let's go to main activity. So what we need to do now is just to wrap our app now with a consumer widget. Okay, so wrap it with a consumer widget, and consumer will help us to effectively listen to this guy. So consumer widget works. Remember that provider is useless without data type. Okay, so you need to specify the type that you want it to list in. So we can say bottom nav provider. If you want to listen to so many other providers, this provider has 2, it has 3, it has 4, it has 5, up to 6. So you can listen to as many providers as you want. So once you add 2, you will need to create another one here, and that's just it. And for this one, we'll call it nav and child. Okay, nav represents this bottom nav page. Okay, so let's say you want to listen to other pages, other let's say you have a database provider, you want to listen to the changes, so you can just call, for now I'm using auth provider because that's the only 2 providers we have, so you can call this one auth and listen to the changes from this auth. All right, so that's how it works. If you add 3, you will need to add the other one 3 here, and then add his own variable for listening to it. Okay, so that aside, I think we are not going to do that. Let me quickly remove this guy. I just wanted you guys to see how that works. Okay, so for this guy now, we won't be using this variable, we won't be using set state any longer, and we won't be using this current index. Now will be coming from the nav dot current index that we have already inside here. Okay, I think the current index is 0. Then this current index is going to be nav dot current index as well. Then to change index, we're just going to call nav dot change index and assign it to this value. All right, so let's run a hot restart, and you should see it's going to work. No set state, nothing. Sweet and cool. All right, guys, I think that's pretty much all for the bottom navigation stuff. So let's quickly work on this sign out in case the user wants to sign out and log in with a new account. So it's going to be pretty much the same as what we have inside our auth page, but it's just that it won't be calling sign out any longer. It's going to be calling something different. So I'm going to copy this guy. The button is going to be the same, so I'm going to copy that and go to accounts. So inside here, I'm going to quickly replace it with this humble boy here. So this guy is still going to be the same as this, but this guy is going to be log out. Okay, so for this guy, we are going to comment it for now to see how that page works. So you can see the logout page. Pretty much cool. So inside here now, we are going to update this guy. Remember, we already added logout inside here, and if the logout is successful, it returns true. If the logout is false, it returns false. Okay, I'm going to quickly go to our accounts page. So inside here, I'm going to create, okay, I think we're still going to work with this guy. So import the auth provider here. and we'll call logout dot then dot value. So if value is equal to false, that means the user didn't authenticate properly. So it's going to call error, like the sign out, sign out was not successful. So else we just take the user direct. Okay, something is wrong. So we just take the user direct to the auth page, okay, to actually re-authenticate themselves again. So let me quickly do a hot restart, and then we'll test the sign out to see how it works. So once we go to sign out, log out user, you can see the user have been logged out. So and to take us to auth page. So if I do a hot restart again, since the user is not existing, to take us to this page. So from here now we can actually re-authenticate the user again, and you can log in, and it will quickly take us to where we want to be, which is the main activity page. All right, so while that is loading, okay, I think while that is loading, we can quickly work on the main activity page, which is like the home page, so we can just see how the home page is being designed, dummy design and all this stuff. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm using a custom screw view for this because I think I so much love slivers. Yeah, I so much love slivers a lot. So we're going to go to the home page, and inside here, and I'm going to create the body widgets. So simply add your custom screw view. Okay, so I normally use screw views to just make everything scrollable and make it a little bit responsive and all that. Okay, so I'm going to add a custom screw view here, and inside here we're going to have a slivers. So slivers works with a sliver to box adapter. So from here I'm going to add a container that will enable us to add some padding around our widgets. Okay, so I just want to add some padding to give it a good feel, So padding const. Okay, so just call this one 20. Okay, so what is missing? Okay, this guy is not here. Okay, so inside our container widget, we are going to add a child widget, call it column, and for now we're just going to add like to see how many lists that we have so far. So I just want to create a dummy stuff, so call this one children. List.generate. Let's just create like three items inside our list. So what we're going to do now is just to return a container. This one is actually going to represent the view of the pool after the user have added it, and what every other persons are going to see. Okay, so I'm going to add a child widget. So I think it's going to be more like a column. Okay, where we have let me quickly view the guy. So it has a column, it has a list style, it has other bodies to attach to it. Okay, so we're going to quickly create that. So inside the column I will be creating children again, and I'm going to create the first one is going to be like a list style. Okay, so that list style now is just going to be, okay, hold on guys. All right, we're going to create a list style, so that is going to hold the details of the author, like the person that posted the whole stuff. But I like removing content padding, so let me just go with essence.all, make it 0. Okay, so inside here I'm going to create a leading indicator that will just take the avatar of the user. Okay, so for now let's just leave it like that, and we're going to have a title. So I'll just call John Doe, John Doll. Okay, all right. So secondly, we have a training button. So we just call this one icon button. So from this icon button, I think we have unpressed. Okay, so unpressed will be called maybe when we want to share the state, want to share the poll, or want to delete, depending on the user that is viewing the stuff. Okay, so for icon we have icons dot share. All right, save it, think we need to close this guy. Let's see what we have done so far. All right, this is not looking cool, but I think we need to add something like a safe area, because this guy is not supposed to go inside like that. So let me wrap this guy now with a safe area, like so, to bring it down a little bit. Awesome. So that's looking pretty much cool, but we need to actually add our container to style our container a little bit. So, and there should be some button margin below it. So I'll be adding some decoration, and it's going to be the boss decoration. And inside here, I'm going to add a border at all. So let's give it a color of app colors dot blue. Won't be nice, will it? Okay, for that I think we need to add another color here. Let's call it gray. Okay, so that's cool. So I can change this guy to gray. Awesome, looking cool. So we need to add some margin, because that guy is more like they are too close to each other. So we're going to add dots. This should be only bottom, and let's give it 10. All right, and I'm also going to add some padding too. So let's give this guy a padding and call it all. Yeah, all works. So all should be 8. Awesome, this is looking cool. So this our border need to have some radius, right? So make it, because the edges are too sharp, so we have border radius, the circular, let's make it something like 10. Would sound be okay. All right, pretty much cool. This is great. So the next thing that we are going to add is more like the test that will show the question that the user added, right? So we are going to have something like a test. So we'll call this one my question. So don't worry, we are going to edit all these guys to come with real values when we start integration with Firebase. Okay, so this stuff is supposed to be at the right side. So I'll be using crux axis alignment dot start, okay, to just push it to the start. Okay, then I'll be having let's just add some space below it to be around 8. So under there, I think I'm going to create more like the options feed, because the options need to have you need to have something like the options feed has, let me look this guy again. It has option, which is the answer, and also has the percentage, right? Awesome. So we are going to quickly create, but before I do that, let me quickly create total vote count here. Total votes, so we can say 8. So these are just dummy data for now, which we are going to edit later on. So we have total votes. Then for this guy, I think it needs to be more like a list that generates. Let's just use, because the questions are actually 2. They are going to be 2 depending on what the user added. Okay, that generate. For now, let me just use 2, and we can just return a simple. It's going to be a container, yeah, with a row and some columns to just make it look good. Okay, so I'm going to add a container here. Okay, so the container is going to have a child of row, because if you look at this guy, okay, so what have I done? So if you look at this guy, it has 1 for the first row with a progress indicator, and the second one for the second row, right? So let's quickly add that inside our code base. So we have the row here. Okay, so having that row now, we need to actually create so we need to create a first one. I think since we have a progress indicator, it should be a linear progress indicator, yeah. So but I think it needs to be around, because it's a row and the indicator is going to be long, so to avoid any form of error, we need to add make it expanded widget. So inside the expanded, we can now add whatever we want. Okay, so let me add a test for now. We're going to update it later to just see how it looks. All right, so we have the two tests for the two items. Okay, so the next one I want to do now is actually to create the one that will show for the percentage. Okay, so inside the expanded, I'm going to have something like a size box width, and I'll call this 20, and right there I'm going to have a test widget, and this is just going to be the percentage. All right, so it's going to be like 5%. Don't worry, we are going to update all this later. Okay, this is just a dummy data, looking great, right? But it's not really looking great for me because we need to add some padding and some margin to actually make this guy not really be close enough. So what I'm going to do is like adding margin. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, right here I'm going to add just set a margin only bottom, so I'll just call it 5 to just give it a nice feel. Yeah, that guy now is cool. Okay, so it's now seated properly. So we're going to have the first thing we're going to do now is to add a linear indicator. So I'm going to remove this guy. Okay, but before that, let's first of all create this thing, this the option menu, the name of the options. So I'm going to expanded should have since there are two, I think I need to use a stack widget. Okay, and so inside here I'm going to have a container. Let's give it an alignment of center, and we have a padding dot symmetric, give it horizontal to be 10. So we want the padding left and right. Okay, so that's why I'm using horizontal, and we'll give it a height. So the height should be default, fixed. So and then we'll give it a child. So the child is just going to be the option. So let's just give it my question, the first option. I think since we are using dummy data, the two are going to be the same, so we just say destiny. Okay, so we're going to see the options. First option, second option, and you can see it's actually here, and it's not supposed to be in the center, should it? Should be center left. Yeah, let's do it that way. Awesome, great. So the next thing we need to do now is to add the linear indicator. So the reason why I use stack widget is so that this guy is going to be on top of the linear progress indicator, or the linear progress indicator should be on top of this test. Okay, yeah. So we have our linear progress indicator, and yeah, save it, and you can see the linear progress indicator looking great, looking cool, looking amazing. So for this we need to give it a height, a minimum height to be around 30, the same as the height of this test. Okay, yeah, cool, great one. So we have our UI looking amazing. So I think I need to give it a background color to be white. That should be when the percentage is 0%. Okay, so the app color should be white. So far we haven't created. Let me see how gray will look like. Okay, gray is not looking great, so I'm going to quickly change, have a white color here. Alright, so we are going to quickly change this guy to white, so you won't really know that there's a background color. Only the progress indicator as is increasing, the color too will be increasing. So for this guy now, we're going to add a value, like how many percent we want it to be. So depending on how many percentage we are getting, say the percentage is like 500 or whatever, we need to divide it by 100, which is like 0.5. Okay, it's going to be like half of it. So if it's like let's say the percentage is 100%, it's going to be full. Okay, so if it's like 90, it's going to be 0.9, just like that. Okay, but for now it's 5%, so it should be like this. If it's 50%, it should be in the half side, which is like, yeah, 0.5, and I think 5 should be 0.05. Okay, what am I saying? Yeah, something like that. All right, so now we have our percentage and everything looking great. So I'm going to duplicate the same thing again for my pools page. So I'm going to change the name to my pools. So let's just highlight this and change this name now to my pools. Awesome one, guys. So once we go to account, my pools is still having the same UI, but for my pools you only want to have this guy, okay, to just change to delete button. So I'm going to go down to where we have our, where is our list I? Okay, where we have this share, I'm going to change it to delete. Okay, that's for the user. Yeah, awesome. So for home page is actually share, this is delete. So this is pretty much it for the UI. I think we're almost done. But one more thing we need to do is to add a floating action button that will actually create the, in case we want to add a new pool. So inside here I'm going to add a floating action button, and I'll call it floating action button on pressed. And so we'll call it a child, and I will call this one icons.add. Awesome. So we have our icon there. So while that is there, we are going to create, remember we have our add pool page. So I'm going to quickly create an import here. So let's just quickly create that page for adding a new pool. So we have a stateful widgets, add pool page. So here we have our scaffold, and we have our app bar. So app bar goes here. So we can give this a title of something like a test widget, definitely. Okay, that works. All right, so normally we need to actually navigate to the my pools page. So once we are here, we can just call this button next page, and context we call my pools, no, add pools page. Okay, add pools page. So that works. Yeah, this works. So once we click here now, yeah, we have this page, add pools page. So inside this add pools page, we're going to quickly create the add pools widgets and everything that will be needed. Okay, so it's still going to be a custom scroll view for responsiveness and all that. Okay, so I'm going to have a body widget here, and I'll call it custom scroll view. All right, so I'm just trying to be fast so that we can quickly wrap this maybe in 2 hours, 3 hours. Let's just see how far this will go. Okay, so body, we have a sliver custom scroll view. We should have a sliver, and we have a sliver to box adapter, and inside here we can have a child widget as well that will have a container. So inside this container we can now create a padding. Remember the previous one I actually created a padding, so we can just give it a padding of 20. Okay, and so we'll wrap this with a form widget so that we'll be able to like show more like if there's an error, like a form state to show some error, you know, to help in terms of validating the app. So the child, we're going to have a column. So this column is just going to have a children, so just leave that children for now. So we're going to add that guy later. So the form key should be created as well, but let's just keep those guys for now. Okay, let's just move on. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is just like to create the button that will actually trigger the add pool button. Okay, so that one want add a new pool. So let's quickly look at how the UI is here. Okay, we need to create this button now. So let's quickly go to our app, and I'm going to go over here. I think it should be under this column. Yeah, so inside the children, create button. So inside here, and I'm going to create a container. Remember, it's going to be wrapped with a gesture detector. So let's just add a gesture detector for now. Okay, so so we have a child container. So the container is going to be have a height of 50. Okay, so just make it cool. And the width, so we're just going to minus it by 100 because we don't want it to occupy the whole space. So just say size by 100 minus 100. Okay, I don't want to give it a fixed width because of responsiveness and all that. So let's just get the minimum width of the system, like the maximum width of the system, then minus it by 100. Okay. Now I'm going to quickly add a decoration to it. I think the decoration is pretty much the same as what we already have inside our alt page. So I'm just going to quickly copy this guy. Okay, so yeah, we don't really need to be reinventing the wheel every time. So paste it, import the color. So the only thing we need to change is more like changing this guy to post pool. All right, okay, pretty much cool. So we can now move on to creating the various form fields that are needed for this guy. So the first one is going to be the form field for adding a question. Okay, form field for adding question. So we're going to have a container, and it's going to have a test form field inside. So remember, test form field works with controller, right? So for now, let's just leave it to be null. And it has, so we're going to have a validator that will be validated. That means because we are already wrapping it with a form state, so we're just going to check if the value dot is empty. So we can just return input is required. Okay, just similar stuff as what we are doing here. So if it's not, if it's empty, we just return this guy. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do there. Okay, so so if it's not empty, we can just return null. So it's actually validated now. Return null, close this guy up. All right, so we have our form field. I think I need to add some margin below it, so we just add some margin. Okay, make it 10. All right, so we're going to wrap this with a decoration. So I'm going to quickly create a decoration to make it look good. So I'll be calling input decoration. So inside the input decoration, we have a error builder. So error builder should still be outline input border. So we can also have a label test. So the label can just be the first label. Let's say it's going to be label test. So this is going to be the first one, question. So we're also going to get a border. So let me still use the outline input border as well. Alright, so this guy needs to go with some constant widget. Okay, so this guy is out. Okay, I think there's no need to go with that because we are still going to make this guy, because it will be nice to just, okay, so we have this guy now. You can see how cool it's looking. So it won't be nice. We just have maybe create this guy, add it here again, add it here again. This will like make our code too long, so that is not really nice. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create I'll just, since I've already created one, I'm going to create a widget down here. So I'm just going to call it form widget that is going to handle all those stuff. So we just have to call the form widget, and inside the form widget we're going to call the test editing controller because it's needed, and then we can call the label that will be used as well. And after that, I think that's pretty much it. So we are going to return this guy. Okay, so inside here now we have the label simply is going to be the label that we are actually passing. Okay, and the controller is not going to be null anymore. It's going to be this controller, and that works for us. So what we are going to do now is just to create the form widget. You pass the controller and then you pass the label as well. So the controller will be created later. So let's just pass the label and we'll call this one question. So looking at the UI, looking at this UI, we have question, we have option 1, option 2, and duration, right? Awesome. So duration, I think, is more like a date picker. So we're going to see how to work with that, okay? Showing no, nothing was selected here. So we're going to see how to actually work with that. And so I'm going to create the various controller that are needed. But before that, let me quickly create the 3 states. The first one is going to be for options. This one is going option 1, yeah. This one is going to be for option 2. And we're going to have duration, okay? So I'm going to quickly create the various test editing controllers. So the first one is going to be for question. Okay, like so. So I'm going to duplicate it by 4. This one is going to be option 1. And this is going to be option 2. And finally, we have the duration. Okay, so inside here, and I'm going to create question, option, and option 2. And I'll quickly pass the duration. So I think that's pretty much it. But before we go, we need to create the form state. I think it's more like a global key that has a type of form key. And we'll call this one the key. So use this form key. And I'll call this a global key. Awesome. This is not supposed to be form key. It's supposed to be form state. All right. So inside the form that we have, I'm going to pass the key inside and then pass the form key like so. All right. So we pretty much have the same UI as what we have. So let's quickly validate this guy. So I'm just going to check if form key dot current state dot validate. So if it's validated, we can actually proceed to add the save to database. Else we do nothing. Okay, so once we click, you can see it's showing inputs are required because we have not really added any test inside. So for the duration, it's supposed to be a date picker and we are supposed to disable tap listener, right? So I think what I need to do, I will go back to my form widget and I will create additional parameter for the on tap, what we call when we tap on it. So this is going to be void callback. Okay, so inside this void callback, I will call on tap. So what I will do now inside our test form feed, I will set the on tap to be this on tap that we created, and we need to know if it's going to be read only because all these ones should not be read only, but only this one should be read only. So once we tap, it will call the function. So I will set read only. Okay, so the read only will be for like once you tap on duration, read only should only tap. Then the rest is going to be like the read only is going to be false. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to check if the on tap is equal to null. That means nothing was passed. So I'll just return the read only to be false. Then else it should be true. All right, so this will work. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to quickly go over to where we have our form widgets. Okay. Sorry, so I'm going to quickly go up here. So for duration, the only thing I need to pass is just to set the on tap listener. So since it has on tap now, so see what happens. If I click here, nothing happens, but if I click here, it selects. If I click here, nothing happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do quickly is to show date picker. Show date picker, I'll pass the context. The initial date is going to be date time.now. Okay, the last date is going to be date time .now, and that's the first date. The last date is going to be 2017. Let's just use that one. Date time .utc.2027. Yeah, that works. Then remember it has some the then stuff. So once, so I'm just going to check if value is equal to null. So if the user didn't select anything, I'll just set the duration dot test dot clear. Okay, I'll just clear the test inside. So else, if it's equal to null, I'll clear it. But if it's not null, then what I'm just going to do is just to set the duration dot test to be the value dot to string. Okay, you might want to actually format this, but let's just format the date time to a string. So this works. Save it up, and if we click on it, it brings up this guy, and we can select and play. Awesome. So if the user didn't select anything, it's going to clear out. If you do this, yeah, so this works and it's pretty much okay. So far we are done with our UI and nothing is left and nothing is pending. So what we need to do now is to start working with Cloud Firestore. So the first thing we need to do is to add a new pool into our application, like into Firebase. So currently, if we go to our cloud function inside our Firebase database, you would see that, okay, what is happening? Oh, my network has disconnected. So let me quickly connect again. Okay, hold on guys. All right, so I'll quickly connect. Okay, so let's try reloading that guy again. So while it's loading, let's go to our app now. Okay, I think we just have to wait a little. All right, so if we go to Firebase storage, what is happening? Okay, let's go to our wow. Okay, let's go to Firebase storage. All right, so here now we're going to create a new database, and yeah, so far I think it's still loading. It's still loading. So while it's loading, let's quickly create a DB provider. So inside that DB provider, we'll be able to like add our database, and it will give us access to add database, like add poll, delete poll, and also vote for a new poll, right? So that's what we're going to do inside this class. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over to my provider. Inside here, I'm going to create a DB provider.dat. So inside here, I'm going to quickly create a class, and I will call it provider. Then we just extend change notifier. Okay, so this works. So inside here, I'm going to create a string class, and I will call this a message. So it's going to like listen to the response. If the note has been added, you're going to see if the poll has been added, this message is actually going to display to the user. All right, then we'll create a boolean value to actually listen to when this state is actually loading. Okay, so to enable us to update the state accordingly. All right, so here we get message, and we can say we can just listen to these events, assign it to that getter, and we have a boolean value, and we have a status, and we also return this guy, which is status. Awesome. So right here, now I'm going to create a user class. So this user variable is going to enable us to get the users what is it called, the user ID, okay, the username, like the author, this person that is posting it. So aside that, we are also going to create a collection reference that actually represents where we are going to be storing the pool. Okay, so I'm going to call it pool. So I'm actually going to initialize Firebase Firestore. Remember, we have already added all these dependencies in our application, so I will call this one pools. All right, so that's pretty much fine. So inside here we're going to have a void add pool. So this is going to be for adding pool, and so far looking at our UI, you can see it actually requires a lot of things. So the first one is going to be the question itself, okay, and you're also going to take the duration, and then it's going to take finally the option. So this option is going to be more like a list of map because there are two. So you're going to see list of map. All right, because it's going to have I think the option is going to have something like it's going to have okay, I think we're going to define that when we want to pass the data, right? Because I think it's going to have something like answer and percentage. The percentage by default is going to be 0. Okay, so inside the map I'm going to create call these options, and it's going to be a synchronous. All right, so what I want to do now, I just want to like create the method for adding a pool. All right, so what we need to do is like wrap this guy with a try and catch. So on Firebase exception, if there's any exception from Firebase, you can just catch it here. Okay, then we set it to the message. It's going to be e.message. Okay, then you can set the status to be false. Okay, that means it's not loading. There is set notify listener. So I will do the same thing again for the last block, which is going to be the catch block. So the catch block is going to fall under here. So catch block is going to be e. Let's just say please try again, like so. So this one is going to have this guy. And we are pretty much good. So inside this try and catch, we can actually perform all the actions that is needed and then save the data, right? Awesome. So but the first thing we need to do, once the user starts this action, we need to actually set the loading state to be true, and then we can call notify listener like so. All right, so that's pretty much it. Let's see our Firebase. We're going to create a database now. And I want to start in production mode. You can actually change this guy later on if you want. So start. I don't know why this thing is taking time to load. So while it's loading, let's just, okay, I think we can go over now to next. And yeah, leave everything as it is, default. So while that is loading, I'm going to quickly create the JSON format of how the data is going to look like and when we store it inside the database. All right. So what I'm going to do next now is to come over here inside my try block. I'm going to create the data, like the payload that we're going to store to Cloud Firestore. All right. So the first thing, remember I said I'm going to be storing the author detail. So we'll have this first object that will have the author detail, and it will has the UID. The UID will be coming from this user. Okay, user.uid. Okay, UID. Okay, and we're also going to have the profile image. So the profile image will be coming from user dot display, okay, photo URL, I believe, yeah. And remember, we are using social auth, so all these things should be available for us on the fly. All right, so also the name of the author will also be provided. We'll call this display name. All right, so aside that, we also need to get another object for date created, so to know the date that this guy was created. So for that, I'll be using datetime dot now, okay, the current date that the user actually created this stuff. Then secondly, we have the pool object. So the pool object, we have the first thing, which is like the total vote. So by default, when a user creates the vote, it's going to be 0 by default, right? And then we also need to get the total number of people that have voted, which is like the voters. So for these voters is going to be like a list of map, like an empty list of map. Okay, we are going to update all this guy later when we try to update, like when someone votes, we are going to update this collection and then update the voters object. Okay, So we have a question as well. So the question is going to be the question from this parameter there. Then we also have to send the duration as well. So we have duration. And finally, I think it's going to be the options. So the options that the user added, which is actually a list of map. And we're actually getting it from this variable here, options. Awesome. So we are pretty much good to go. So once we get the payload and it has been added, we just have to await and call the pools collection dot add the data. Okay, like so. So this pool collection dot add data. All right. So once it's added, we're just going to set the state of this guy to pool created. And we can set the status to false, the loading status to false, and then finally we can call notify listener. Awesome. So that's pretty much it for adding a new collection. So let's see what happens here. You can see this is actually empty right now. So what we are going to do next is actually to call a function that will handle the adding of this guy for us. Okay, so what we need to do quickly is actually to handle the state. So I will go over to my project now. So we have this add post page. So we need to actually be sure that this stuff that the user added is properly validated, right? So inside my form state, since it's validated, we need to actually create a list of map to actually add the two options that the user entered. Okay, so it's going to be a list of map which are options. So inside here, I'm going to create, since I say it's a list of map, it's not supposed to be like this. Okay, all right, so the first one is going to be the answer. So the answer is going to be from option 1. Okay, option 1.test.trim. So I want to remove white spaces before and after. So the percent by default is going to be 0 because nobody has actually added in it, like voted. Okay, so it's going to be 0. Then the second one is going to be for option 2, like so. So if you have more options, you can actually create them here. All right, so this works. Let's see what happens when I print this guy. So let's say I tap this guy to show error. I'll tap my question, hello. Okay, let me just type GGG option. Let me say option opt 1. And this should be opt 2. All right, so duration, we just select duration and click. And if I save, you can see we have the answer here. We have the opt 1 and awesome. So this is looking great. So what we need to do next is just to like send it over to this DB provider. So for this, we need to first of all, this should be DB provider. So what we need to do first of all is to register the provider. So we'll go to our main activity.dat. So inside here, we'll have a DB provider registered. Okay, then we'll go over to our add pool page. So inside this add pool page, I'll be wrapping this gesture detector with a consumer widget. All right, okay, so we'll give it this guy DB provider, and I will call this guy DB and child. All right, so this is pretty much cool and great. So the next thing I want to do to make sure that this state actually changes accordingly, okay, as it should be. So inside here, I'm just going to do something like if DB dot status is equal to true, that means it's loading. So I'm just going to send this guy to be please wait, like so. And I will do the same thing here for the colors. So if the db.status is equal to true, that means it's loading. I will just set this guy to app colors dot let's say gray. Okay, yeah, just make it disabled a little bit. Also for this button, a user should not be allowed to tap on the button when something is processing. Okay, so we also need to handle that too. If status is equal to true, return null, else return the normal tap action. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything we need for that guy. So then the next thing we need to do is to send the data to db.addPool. So it requires the question, yeah. So we have question dot test dot trim, then duration, we send duration dot. No, by default you're supposed to format it, but in this case we are not formatting it. So the option now is going to be these options, and you can see we have passed the option. So we'll get it from the other side and then send it to Firebase. All right. So one thing, we need to be able to show users some message in case of when something happens. If there's any error, we should show user error. If there's any success, we should show user success. Okay. So for this consumer, because the listings are continuously, I'll be using a widget binding to actually, so that we won't break the state. Okay. Widget binding dot instance dot add post framework callback. Okay, so I'm just going to check if the db.message, okay, is not equal to empty. Like if it's not empty, yeah, so by default it's not supposed to be empty. So for that case, because if it's empty, it will continuously be calling. Okay, so I think for that case I need to create a method here that will just clear the test. Okay, in case we want to clear the test, so we just call message equal to an empty string, and here we just call notify listener. Why is it not giving me update? Okay, I think I need to do this. All right, what am I missing? Okay, notify listeners. Awesome. So what I will do now inside this add pool, I will just call here. So if the db.message is not equal to an empty string, I will now check if the db.message, okay, if it contains this guy here, which is our response for Sussex, which is pool created. I'll just copy that guy. So if it's equal to pool created, I will just call the success message. Okay. So by default, this is at the point that you need to actually clear the DB completely. Like I say clear DB, like clear these feeds, okay? And maybe you can navigate the user back to this page if you want, okay? But for this case, I think I will just leave it as it is, okay? So we'll call db.clear, like so. Then else, I think that will be a task for you guys to experiment on, okay? db.message, and so the reason why I'm calling .clear is so that this guy will not call twice. So once the error shows, we just clear the response to empty string. And if it's empty string, this guy will not trigger again. Hope you can see that. All right, awesome, cool. So let's quickly do a hot restart here. I think we are pretty much done with the adding of pool. And everything is cool. Don't worry, this code will be available on GitHub for every one of you. So we didn't use this guy. Why? What happened? Okay, form key, yeah, we used it. Yeah, we used it. So they want us to make it final. That's not a problem. So adding a pool now, I'm going to go over here. And the question, let's say hello. Then the response, the two options, the first one is going to be me. The second option is going to be me. The duration should be at least, let's say, 23rd of November, which is this month. And we click on add. Please wait, I don't know. Okay, so let's just assume that it's adding, but so far I'm not seeing anything, no response. Okay, add status false, status false, status false. Okay, the caller does not have permission to execute this specified operation. So I believe this is coming from Firebase. For that reason, I think we need to update our rules to only allow authenticated like users. I think we just need to change our rules a little bit. Allow read write if the auth is equal to true. Okay, so if user is authenticated, yeah, allow the user. So let's see what happens. All right, published. So we are going to try this guy one more time again. Okay, let's see. All right, I think my network is pretty much slow, and I think that's why it's having this delay. So let's give it some few seconds. All right, pool created, you can see, and the state just changed automatically. All right, so let's go and look at our database to see if anything was added. So I'll just quickly refresh this guy, and all right, you can see the collection has been created and the ID, and you can see the user that actually added it, which is author, destiny air, the profile image, and the UID, the date created, the poll, the duration, and you can also see the option as well. And me, the two options just created, and the voters is actually empty. The total votes is actually 0. So if you go to my authentication, you're going to see the user that just authenticated, which is the one I authenticated for, currently inside our authentication class, but this thing is taking time to load. So you're going to see the available users, talk to Destiny Ed, and you can see my UID. Awesome. So now I think we are pretty much done with that bit. So the next thing we are going to do now is to see how to fetch the user here. Yeah, like to fetch all the polls inside here and then update this UI accordingly. So to do that, I think I'm going to go over to this provider. I'm going to create another provider again for fetch pool. So inside this provider, it's going to take two things. One is to fetch the user's pool, and the other one is going to have two functions. Sorry, the fetch function is going to fetch the user's pool, and the second one is going to fetch general pool. Okay, so I have a fetch pools provider, and I will call extends change notifier, like so. And here I'm going to add I'm going to create a list because it's going to return a document snapshot for us. So I'll add a document snapshot. But in your own case, you might actually, that's if you're, in your own case, let's say you're not using Firebase, you're using an API, it might return a map or something like that, a list of map and all that. But this one will return a list of document snapshot for us. Okay, so I'll be calling this guy pools. So this is going to be pools list, and by default it's going to be an empty list, and I will have a state that shows if it's loading or not, the default state for loading. And quickly I'll create a list, like a getter for it. So the first getter is going to be for the loading state, so I'll call this loading, get loading, like a status. So just say it's loading, and we'll call it's loading, like so. Then inside here, I'm just going to call a list document snapshot pools list. Okay, and we'll call this guy, I think I missed something, no getter here, no gets keyword. All right, so quickly, I think we just need to create the collection reference. For that, since we are still fetching it from pools, I will just get this pool. Okay, and I also think we need the user ID too for the user ID in case we want to fetch for a particular user. All right, so I'll go to fetch pools. So inside here, I'm going to import this guy. So here I'm just going to say void. It's going to be a void callback, okay, because we don't want to be listening to any response. Everything will be handled inside the provider for us. So we are not going to use any response to change state or whatever, like set state and all that. We don't need it. So the first one is going to be fetch all pools, okay, and it's going to be asynchronous, yeah, like so. So what I will do now, I'll just go inside pools, the collection, okay, dot get. All right, so it's going to like fetch everything inside. So once it gets everything inside, I'm going to await the response using .then. So I will check if the value, okay, dot the docs inside, that is the document inside. So if it's empty, all right, so what I'm just going to do is just to like set the pools list, okay, to an empty array. Already is an empty array, but it's good to first set it to an empty array. Then I'm going to set the is loading state to true, no, to false, sorry. So because already is true, so I'm going to set it to false, and then I'll call notify listener. Okay, so any listener that is listening to this list is going to get the updated list and then update the UI accordingly. All right, so if there's any data, let's say it has data, okay, so what we just have to do is to get the data inside. So I'm just going to call value.docs, which returns as a list of document snapshots. So don't just omit this query document snapshot, just go with document snapshot alone. So once we get that, I'm going to quickly set it to pools list, okay? So it's just going to override the existing data that was there already. So we set the is loading state to false and then call notify listener. So this is pretty much fine and it's cool. All right, so what the first thing I want to do is actually to register our fetch provider. So this one now, I'll just comment this fetch all pools. Then we have another one here, which is fetch user pools. Okay, so quickly let me just go. I'll add that fetch user pools later. So let me just quickly add this guy. Let me register this one for fetch pools provider. So going back to our pools now, inside here I'm going to create another method. Okay, just copy and paste this guy, so it's still similar stuff. Okay, so once we have that, now what I'm going to do is just to get fetch user pools. Okay, so here now where we have .this, so what I'm going to do instead is like to check once we fetch all the pools, and if it's empty we return this guy. So what I'm going to do now is to check the final data and get the docs. I'm going to loop through the docs. Okay, so but before I do that, I need to create another list now for users pool, another variable for users pool. So this is going to be users pool provider. Okay, and this one now I'm going to create this one now for users pools provider, and set it to this guy. Let's return that guy. So go down a little bit. So inside here, and I'm not going to be working with this one pools list. So I'm going to working with users pools list, and this one too will be users pools list. Okay, so I think they more like have kind of like a different the individual pools is going to be like a different one from that one entirely. So I think because okay, let's go on. So I don't know if what I'm doing is right, but let's see, because the users pools list, okay, all right, okay, let's move on. So for individual pools, so what I'm going to do is to fetch user pools, right? Okay, so I think this is actually correct. So what I'm going to do is to remove this guy. Yeah, so I'm going to look through. So I'll say var I, because I know this guy is going to return the document snapshot, right? So I in data, which is the docs, okay? Because if you look at this guy, now it's actually a query document snapshot here. So I'll check if the I, so I'll just get the data dot author, because looking at this guy, you can see we have, it's actually nested in a way where we have the pools, this, and we have the author. So from the author, we need to get the UID and then compare it with the current user UID to know if it's actually the user that posted that particular pool. Okay, so that get author, okay, then we'll get the UID inside, then we check if it's equal to the user.uid. So if it's equal to it, what we just have to do is to call this guy. Okay, but if it's not equal to it, then we don't need to do anything. So automatically the user's pools list is going to be empty array like this guy. Okay, so this works for us. And make sure the author, the spelling is actually matching the spelling of this one. If not, you get some document does not exist error, something like that. Okay, so that is done. So what we are going to do next now is actually to fetch the data and then display it to the user. So inside my home page here now, I think what I need to do, I'm going to wrap this custom screw view, this guy, this beautiful guy, this handsome guy. I'm going to wrap it with a consumer widget. I think I'll be wrapping the safe area with a consumer widget. So consumer. So this guy now is going to have the fetch pools provider, and we will get rid of this guy. So this one is going to be pools. And we have that guy. Okay, so quickly to actually disable this guy from overfetching. So because of that, I'll be creating a boolean value. I'll call it is fetched. I'll set it to false, to true, to false, to false. Yeah, false works. All right. So inside here, I'm going to create. Just going to check if is fetched is equal to false. So I'm going to quickly fetch the data dot get like fetch all pools. Okay, then quickly once the request has been made, I'm going to set the constant duration. So I'll set microseconds. I think 1 should work. So after that seconds, after the duration, I'm going to set this guy back to true. So as you can see, once this guy is true, this guy is not going to refetch again. Okay, he's going to fetch once to actually avoid too much work to be happening in the UI. So that works for us. So what I'm going to do now, inside this safe area, I'm just going to check if the pools, if pools dot is loading. Okay, so if it's actually true, I'm just going to return a center widget here that has a child of cycle progress indicator. And yeah, so once its loading is not true, that will not check again if the pools, okay, that the pools list, so if it's empty, we just have to return something else, since it's still going to be the something like no pool available. Yeah, so no pools at the moment. Okay, so this works. Then else, if everything works fine, then we have this guy. Okay, so let's quickly see what happens when I restart the app. So since you already have one pool inside a database, it's going to show the data. So it's fetching now. You can see the data is showing, like it's going to show that something exists. Okay, so if we change this guy now to not empty, it's going to show this guy no pools at the moment. All right, so let's revert it to the initial state. Okay, so moving on, this length now is no more going to be the list.generate length that we have. So we are going to get the length from the pools list. Okay, dot length. All right, so I think currently we only have one pool inside our database. All right, so that works for us. So quickly, I'm going to get the data from the pool. Okay, so I'll call it pools. Okay, dot pools list. So I'm actually getting the individual items from the pools list. So this is more like a way that you can search data from Firebase. All right, I think I've done this so many times in some of my videos already, and I think it's pretty much fine. So remember, so for now, let's just log the data to see what happens here. I think this should be logging continuously. Okay, JSON query document snapshot. So let's see if you can get the data, data.data. Let's convert it to string. So you should see the response, pool, total votes that we added. You can see the author, the name, destiny head, profile image, blah blah blah. So let's quickly modify those guys. So first thing we need to do is to actually fetch if you can look, if you see now, the author is actually a type of map, so we need to get the author name from the data, then you call author. Make sure the name rhymes with the name of what you're accessing. So this is the name author, it rhymes. Okay, so you want to be sure of that. And also we need to get the pool too. Remember, the pool is also a data, and we have pool. You can see the name pool, P-O-L-L. All right, then we can quickly grab, you can quickly get the timestamp as well. So you save the data as a datetime.now, like a datetime into Firebase. But if you are fetching it as a timestamp, it doesn't come as a datetime. All right. So you need to make sure you don't, you just avoid that error, that kind of issue. So we have a date. So we have data, and we have date created. I think that should be the name. Yeah. So just copy this guy to be sure, and paste it. Yeah, date created. Okay, so with this date created, you can actually convert it to maybe date dot to date. So this one had to be converted to a date time, you see. So very simple, there you can do whatever you want to do. All right, so moving on, this is our circular progress indicator. Now we are going to like return the profile image, which is this guy here. So let me copy that guy and come over here. So we should have something like a background image. Remember, it's a network image, so we'll be using the network image class to actually render it. So you can call author, which is this name because that's where it's stored, author.profile image. Save it up, and this guy should change to our profile image for that very account. Okay, so we'll do the same thing again for the name. So this is going to be the name. It's going to change to Destiny Ed. Awesome. So this is the share button. So when we want to share, so remember I told you that we'll be using dynamic linking to just generate the link and share it with friends. Okay, so the question which is actually going to come from the pool. Okay, this one we created here. So get your pool quickly, remove this constants because it's not going to work. So pool, and we can quickly put our question. The question we should change, hello. Awesome. So for this guy now, where we have this generate, we can just get the option. Remember the option while saving it, it was a list of map. Option, a list of maps. So what we need to do inside here now, you can decide to get the options here if you want. So let's say you get the, it's a list of map, right? So it's going to be a list of map data type. So we can get options, and we can call this guy data options. Okay, all right. So okay, bad state feed does not exist. Okay, I think it's option that we use. Okay, feed does not exist. Let's see what we are doing wrong. Options op. Okay, from pools then we can access the option. Okay, my bad. So we're supposed to get a pools first. So I'm just going to call the pool options. Is it option or options? Options. Okay, so this works. List dynamic is not a subtype of map. List map dynamic. Okay. So what are we doing wrong? So it's saying it's not a subtype of, okay, let's use the dynamic instead. And yeah, that works. So you can see if we go over here now, we can just return the option instead. Dot length. So it's going to be 2 by default. Then we can get the data final. So we can call the data option options, and we can call the index right here. So that works for us. So let's actually access the data one time. So for this answer, the first answer, which is like a list, so what we're going to just return here is more like the option.answer. So we're just going to call the data option, and I'll call answer. So look very well, you can see answer is here, right? So save it up. Me, which is more like the name, because see, the first option is me, the second option is me. Okay, So the next thing I'm going to do now is actually to return the value that is supposed to be here, because the value is an integer, which is the percent. So what I'm going to do is to call data option, okay, and I will call percent. And yeah, so it's 0%. That's why you can see nothing is selected, so it's 0% completely. So we divide it by 100. So, and something else is missing, which is this 5% that's showing here. So we just have to show this percentage, right, the way it should be. So what I just have to do is to call this guy, and I will call data option, okay, and we'll call percent. Remove this constant, save it, and we should see the percentage, 0%, all of them. So now let's quickly grab the total votes that the user voted for, okay, like to know how many users have voted for this. So we have data option, and is it from total option? No, it's from the pool direct. It's not from total option, because if we look at this, it's from pool, then we have total votes, okay. So it's going to be pool total votes, remove this constant and save it. Total vote should be 0. Awesome. So everything is pretty much fine. And one more thing is missing. I think that is more like the date created. So let's add a subtitle and test. So it's going to be from is it from pool? So how do we get date created? Okay, date created is already up there. So let's have date, okay, dot to string. That works. Timestamp, no, it's not supposed to be like that. Let's go dot date dot to string. All right, awesome. So you can use int package to actually format it properly if you want, yeah, but I think we just have to leave that for now. You can use the int package to format it. So yeah, so moving on. So I think it's best I show you guys how to format it using int package. So if you go to your search and search for Flutter int, so this package will help us to actually like format our date properly, okay. So that's what we'll be using, date, time, year, month, day, and it will format it for you. So let's just use that, okay. So I just want to show you guys how that is done. Okay, add it and give it some few seconds. While it's adding, we can locate where we have our date and make sure you run. Since it's a package, and we don't really need to like run anything like to rebuild the app again. Okay, so I'm going to go over to where we have the dates. Okay, so inside here, I will call date format dot year, month, day, okay, like so. All right, dot format, and I'll pass in the date dot to date. Okay, so this works. So it's Sunday 11 which was the date that we actually created this guy. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much everything. We are good to go. So right now, if we tap, we need to actually update that guy, right? So once we tap, you're supposed to like update the vote, okay. So to do that, I think we are going to go over to this guy and set on tap. So this is what like update vote, like so, okay. So for now, let's log the data options that the user selected. Okay, save it up. So if we tap on each item here now, it's going to just print out the particular one that the user selected. Awesome. So this is pretty much cool. So we are good to go and nothing to be done here again. So the next thing I will need to do is to fetch my pools, okay, to know all the items that a particular user have added. So looking at this UI, you can see that they're actually the same like with the other one. It's just that we need to change this button to delete. So what I need to do is just like, I'm just going to copy this guy and go to it's still the same similar stuff, okay, but the difference is more like this floating action button that was added here. So I think I will go back to the home page and copy from this body. I'll just duplicate from body. Yep. Hope I'm not copying rubbish here. We have our safe area. Okay, so we have our body. All right, so cool. All right, so scroll down a little bit. So we have from this consumer, we're going to copy it down up to where we have our consumer widgets, like the body. Okay, oops, what did I do? Okay, let's just take it down again to consumer. We need to add this guy too. So let me go to my pools. So right under my pool, I'm going to remove this body widget that we have here and replace it with our consumer. Okay, with the one I copied. So still looking great. Date formatter, we need to import this guy. And the timestamp, we need to import timestamp. And the log, let's import the log as well. So it's fetched is missing. So let's also import these guys. Okay, so it's fetched. We can just create the variable ASAP. All right, so everything is looking pretty much fine, but I need to change. Okay, still my pools, awesome. So if we go to my pools now, we're going to fetch the same data, but that's not what we want. We want this guy now to change to the delete button. So I'm going to quickly scroll down to delete. So this will handle delete forever. Okay, so inside here now we're going to have, this is not going to be fetch all pool again. It's going to be fetch user pool. All right, so from here, think no pool at the moment. This works. Okay, so fetch user pool, data button is going to delete it. So let's see what is happening inside fetch user pool. So we are now going to be using this users pools list now to query our guy. So I'll change this guy to users pools list. Change this guy to users pools list. Yeah, I think that works. Yeah, pretty much cool. No pools at the moment. Think because we have not fetched that guy. So yeah, so this works. You can see the delete button. So let's quickly see how to delete let's see how to quickly delete an existing pool. All right, so to do that, we're going to go over to our DB provider. This is for adding pool, so we have to create another one here. Void delete pool, but for that we are now going to require the ID of the pool we want to delete. So we just have to pass pool ID, and it's going to be asynchronous. So what we are going to do now, we've already created, for first thing, we're going to set the status to true, that's the loading state, and call that guy. So I think I'm just going to copy this guy because it's still having the same similar try and catch. So we're just going to have it here. So try and catch, but now we are not actually saving, okay? We are actually deleting, right? Okay, awesome. So we have the pool ID. So try again. If there's any error, Firebase exception is going to show it for us. So what you're going to do now is going to like await. Since they are all stored in the same collection, we already have the collection here, which is this pool collection. So I'm going to await it and say pool collection .doc. So I'm going to be using doc now. So pass the part of the ID we want to delete. In this case, it's going to be the pool ID. Okay, .delete. Awesome. So this works, and what we're going to do now, instead of pool created, we're going to say pool deleted. So seeing what happens here now, we are actually accessing the pools collection. So from the pools collection, we are now sending the doc to the doc ID to actually get the ID, which is this guy, this huge man here, this ID. Then it will not delete everything inside that ID. All right. So once it deletes the ID, we are quickly going to get a new response that says, hey guy, your pool has been deleted. So moving on, what we need to do now is to handle the state that actually deletes the pool. All right, what am I saying? Okay, so quickly we are going to go to my pools page where we have this button to delete. All right, no, not this one. Okay, my pool is not supposed to actually set state, so we are going to remove this gesture detector here to actually to vote for someone. So let's remove this widget. So quickly, we are going to go to where we have our delete pool button, which is this guy here. So what I want to do, I want to quickly wrap it with a consumer widget. Okay, very important. Okay. So we're going to grab this guy with DB provider, and we'll call this delete and child. So I'll also do the same thing that I did for while we were adding the pool, like creating that widget binding observer to like help a little. So I'll add that to here. Okay, so this DB is no more going to be DB, it's going to be delete. So make sure you grab that guy. Delete, import success if the message was deleted successfully. And once the message shows, we're going to clear the DB as well. We're going to clear the response. Okay, so this is going to be pool deleted, right? Let's see our DB. So if it's pool deleted, then show all these guys. All right, so once we get that guy, so we're going to come over here and call delete pool, and then we'll pass the pool ID. So the pool ID now in this case is going to be coming from this current data. All right, so I think we have data somewhere. Yeah, we have this data.id. Okay, so it's going to be data.id. So this ID represents this guy, this ID here. All right, I want to delete. So once that is done, I think we need to actually disable users from actually. So if the status is equal to true, we are supposed to return a null, else this one. So icon is actually a widget. So what we're going to do now is, if the delete.status is equal to true, I'm going to return a circular progress indicator, and else we return that guy. Okay, so this works. Let's quickly restart our application, and yeah, so we're going to quickly delete this guy. But while doing that, I think this guy too need to like once the delete is successful, we need to refetch the pools again, right? So I'll call pools, okay, dot fetch user pools. All right, so once you delete, it will refetch the user pool again. So this works awesome. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to my pools, and it will fetch it, and we'll click on this guy. You can see it's showing loading state, pool deleted, and the pool is gone completely. So if you go to your Firebase console, you can see the pool is no more existing. So we have deleted it successfully, and the state changes to no pools at the moment. So if I go to home page, it's going to show no pools at the moment because we have deleted the pool. All right, so this is pretty much it. Let me quickly add a new pool here. This is a question, this is the first option, this is the second option, and the duration, post. Pool created, go back. I think it's not fetching immediately, but you can see pool created. You can see this guy. We cannot actually vote, but we can delete. In your own case, it's advisable you show like a dialog to show, hey, are you sure you want to delete this pool? Okay, then to share, this guy will now share the pool for us. Okay, but before then, let's work on this guy to actually update the state. Okay, like to vote. So let's work on the voting state. All right, this part is going to be a little bit trickish. Okay, it's going to be trickish in a way. So what I'm going to do is so we have done deleting of pool, right? So since we have done deleting of pool, I think there's nothing we can do in this page. You can just to close my pools page. So anything we are doing now is going to be from this particular one, right? So inside here, this is where we are going to like vote for a particular user, and yeah, we're going to vote for a particular user and send the votes count, update the count, and all those stuff. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing inside here. So quickly, what I'm going to do inside here is more like going to our DB provider. So inside this DB provider, we're going to be creating another collection. This is going to be a little bit trickish, but just follow along, and I think we're going to make it a success. So we have a void method, we'll call this one vote pool. Okay, so it's going to take some parameters that are needed. So but before then, let's quickly add our try and cache and a loading state to this guy. Okay, so what we're going to have here is more like to catch the exception and all that. Okay, so this one is not going to be needed, right? So once this pool has been created, we'll just add pool recorded, so that works. All right, so now the huge work starts from here. All right, so quickly, the parameters we are going to be needing for this, I think for updating, we are going to pass the full pool data. Okay, like this data that we, if we click here, we want to pass the whole of the data, even the user's name, everything, to update. All right, we're also going to pass the previous total votes, also going to pass the selected option that the user selected, and also the pool ID to know what we're actually updating, right? Okay, great. Now you understand what we need. So they are all going to be required though. So we're going to send string pool ID, and required, we're going to send the document snapshot, and we're going to send the pool data, that is the whole of the pool data, and we're going to send also the total, the previous total votes. Okay, I think it's more like an integer in a way, because you're actually displaying it here, right? Okay, so oh no, we are not working here. Let me go back to here. So we are actually displaying this guy. So we said a previous total vote. Okay, then we have required again, where we have a string that will actually pass in the selected. This guy is not supposed to be, yeah. So we set the selected option. So let's say you select YYY, that will be the option. CCF, that will be the option. So we just set selected options. So this is actually this will enable us to actually do so many other things. So first thing we want to do is actually to create the voters. You know, by default, when you add a new item, voter is not created. All right, it's actually an empty array. So we need to set the voters first. So what I will do in this case is to create a list of dynamic. I think that will help. So let me just create a list. Okay, voters, by default, I need to get the voter from the pool data. Okay, so I'll get the pool. I want to get the existing pool. Okay, you can see we have pool, and then I want to get voters, which is an empty array. Okay, voters. All right, so this is a list of dynamic. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create voters.add. So this voters that we created, I'm going to add a new users details.add. So the first addition is going to be the name of the user that is actually voting. So it's going to come from the user ID dot display name, that is the current user. All right, remember we already have the users collection here where we can get the name and all that. So we can get the UID of the user that is actually voting as well. So we have user.uid, and we have the selected option that the user selected. So the selected option is going to be from the parameter we created, which is selected option. So this will update the list for us. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do now is actually to create the option. So the option needs to be updated, and currently when the user adds an option, like when a user posts a new pool, the option is set as answer and the percentage is 0. So we need to update that percentage right now. Okay, so as I said initially, once you vote, we will increase the first percentage and then reduce the second option. So even if we have so many options, we increment one and reduce the other one so that the percentage is going to tally. Okay, very well. All right. So moving on, because it will be nice, we have 100%, and why the value is still reducing, so it will be great. So it needs to be going accordingly. If one is 100, then that means this other one should be 0%. If this one is 99%, this other one should be around 1%. Okay, stuffs like that. So what I need to do now is to get the options. Still from pool data. And inside here, we're going to grab the options. Remember, the options too is also a list. Okay, it's also a map, so we're just going to use a dynamic to avoid any form of error. So what I will do, I'm going to loop through. So I'll say var I in options. Okay, because I want to see if, so I'm just going to check if the I, all right, because by default a user is not supposed to like vote twice, right? A user is not supposed to vote twice. Yeah, so we need to handle that too, but let me first of all handle the options. So if I dot, so we have the answer. If the answer is equals to the selected option that the user selected, okay, which is this guy, yeah, y. If it's the same thing that what the user selected, so we'll get the percentage from that particular item and then increment it by 1, okay? Then else, if it's not, then what we just need to do, we'll check, because we don't want, if it's 0, then we start minusing it by 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, all this stuff. It won't be nice, okay? So we just have to check again. If a percentage, okay, if it's greater than 0, then at that point, we need to actually reduce the percentage. All right, so I'm very certain this percentage is an integer. That's why I'm doing all this. So you need to be sure that it's actually an integer, or you convert it. Okay, so once we do this, remember, it will not be nice for one user to vote twice, right? For that thing, because of that, I'm going to check here before adding these voters. Okay, so I'm going to check Control X. I'm going to check if voters dot is empty. Okay, if nothing is inside, then we can go ahead and add, right? That works, right? So else, if it's not empty, we can just maybe loop through it just the way we did for the options, and we can get voters. So I can check if I then dot name. Yeah, so if the name will not be nice because so many users can have the same name. So let me use UID. If it's equal to the user dot UID, so what I'm just going to do is to do nothing. So it's not going to add. Like if the UID is not equal to this UID, okay, it's not going to add. All right, so this works. Awesome. Okay. Can we like return okay, for var I in voters blah blah blah, if ID is equal to the else, we can just show a message. Let me call we can just show a message. Okay, if the voter has not voted before, it's just going to be like that. So what we are going to do is just to show a message here. Yeah, we'll just reset this message. You have already voted. Okay, but aside that, I think we can also do that same thing inside here too. More like if the UID, like look through the voters, and the voters actually correspond to what we already have inside this guy, there it will not tap, nothing will happen. Okay, but it won't be nice. It's better we just show the users more like we just show them a message to know that hey, you have already voted. Okay, then we call notify listener like so. Then I think all of these things now will be inside the if UID is not equal to UID. Okay, voters blah blah blah, you add, then you add. Once you add, you can now go ahead and create option and add item. Okay, so we're going to do this list option, pull data, pull option, blah blah blah, and all that. And once we do that, we can quickly, once everything is done, we can add update pool. Okay. All right. So inside here now, we're going to quickly call the data that we need to pass. So for this sake, since we already have our add pool here, I'm just going to grab this guy instead of like reinventing the wheel again. So I'm going to grab this guy, come over here inside update pool. I'll create another payload. Okay. So we have the author, which will be coming from still that pool data, because we are now changing it. It's still going to be from the pool data. Then we have author, okay, .uid, like so. Profile image, the same thing. And the display name to the same thing, okay. So it's going to be name, profile, image, like so. Date created, thing is still going to be from the pool data too. Yeah, it's going to be dates created. All right, so we are just getting it from the initial value. So the total votes now is going to come from the previous total vote that we are passing and multiply by 1. Okay. Then this voters, now remember we already have our voters that we created, so we just have to pass it. Then the question is still going to come from pool data, pool dot question. We also have our duration. I don't know if this is the best way, but it works. All right, so a pool data, this is more like a long work for us. So the options, we pass the options, and once everything has been added inside that, so we're just going to call a weight and quickly call pools collection .doc. Then we'll pass the pool ID, okay, and then we'll call update. Then the update will call the data. Awesome, so that works. And immediately we just call a message, and I will say votes recorded, and you can set your status and call notify listener. All right, so the status is going to be something like false. All right, so inside here, I think we need to call the status to be false as well. So this is a long one. I think the update is so much. We'll first of all check if the voters is empty. Okay, there's some issues. What if the voters is empty? It will stop here and nothing happens again further, right? Because it won't enter the state. And it won't be nice we also create these options as well inside here too. That would be so many work. Duplicate works. That would be duplicate works, right? So I think what we need to do, we don't really have to check if this guy is empty, okay, to change, to show anything. All right, so hold on, I think I got a better idea that we can make this guy to work. Pool recorded, votes recorded. Let's remove this guy. Okay, so what will happen is this: voters, if UID blah blah blah. We don't need this as well. What have I done? Okay, I think we don't need these guys anymore. So also need to get rid of this guy as well. All right, so I'll just save it directly. So if we get the voters, access the voters and add a new vote, check the options. Once we get the options, we add this guy and do this. So the point where the user is already existing, we are going to create it inside our home page. So inside the home page now, where we have the votes created stuff, I think we need to go to hold on a sec, add pools page. Let me copy this guy because we'll still be needing it. It's very needed. Okay, copy it, go to home page. We are going to votes. Okay, inside votes, I'm going to wrap this guy now with consumer widget. no, DB provider, wrap it with consumer widgets. All right, remove this guy. So inside here we're going to have a vote instead. All right, so inside here I'll have this guy too. So these votes, we'll change these DBs to vote, import this guy, vote, and vote. All right, so if pool is equal to, I think it should be DB provider, it should be pool recorded, yeah, votes recorded, yeah. So we're going to copy that guy, come over here, okay, votes recorded, awesome. So see what we're going to do now. Inside here we are at the point of creating a new vote. What we are going to do is to check, what am I saying, I think it is to check if let's see, the author, we can get author, right? Okay, awesome. We can also get votes, so we can check if how can we get voters? I think it's from pool. Okay, if pool voters, okay, dot is empty, I think this voter is more like a list. Okay, so it's something we need to create above here. So I need to create one for the voters. So we have this pool, so I can create a list for voters, and I'll call it pool voters, like so. So come over here now and create voters. So we say if voters dot is empty, so I'll just save, let's just say log no vote for now. So click and let's see what happens. No vote. All right, so at this point, if there's no vote, we can quickly create the new vote. So we can say vote dot update vote. Okay, vote pool. So the pool ID is going to be coming from data.id. The pool data is going to come from data. The previous votes, I think is going to be coming from pool. Okay, and we can have the total votes from this guy here. Okay, then the option, which is the one that the user selected, so we can just call it data option dot the answer, okay, which is this guy that the user selected, the current one that the user clicked on. Okay, and you close this guy. Okay, that's if the user, if there is no vote already recorded. Okay, so what we're going to do now, let's see what happens. And once the vote has been created and if there's any success response, we are going to quickly fetch the vote again. Okay, so we're going to say fetch pool dot, how did I fetch pool initially? Okay, pools dot fetch. Okay, fetch all pools. Okay, awesome, this works. So I'm going to quickly see how it works, the vote. So save it up, click, okay, it's showing no votes, but nothing is happening. This guy too didn't update. Okay, why is it still showing that loading indicator? Okay, let's do a hot restart. I think after deleting the post at that point, I didn't like set the state back to false. Pool deleted, status false. So it's supposed to be false. Yeah, I think that guy is correct. Okay, status. I think everything here is actually listening to that status. Once you fetch a new pool, it returns true. And okay, so I get it now, my network. So let's go back to the home page now. So I'll try to vote for a new person. the poll actually recorded 1%, total votes 1. But right now, okay, so if I click here now, it didn't show any sign as though something is happening. But if I go here, come back, I think my network is pretty much slow here. Okay, let's try to vote. If voters is empty, so it will show no vote, right? So it's not voting because voters is no more empty again. So if you fetch and look at this guy here, we have voters. Voters, you can see Destiny Ed, I just voted, this is my UID, and the selected option was CCF, and you see the percentage has increased to 1%, and this guy increased to total votes 1. So if I click on it again, nothing happens because vote is not empty. So at that point I need to check else. So now I know the vote is not empty. So what I need to do now is to check, because if I run this guy again, check out what happens. It's going to update. Just check. It's going to update for the second one. So that initial one is going to reduce. Okay, this stuff is supposed to like refetch the data again. Fetch all pools. If I go here, that's when it works. My network is having a kind of slow response. See, it takes time to actually show up, which is not good. And this guy keeps loading because we are using the same status for delete. So I think I need to change this status. I need to create another status for delete. So we'll create a different status for delete status. Okay, so this delete status is going to be different from the other one. So I'm going to come here and change it to true. All right. So this way, I think it's going to work. So we won't be having that loading, that continuous loading state again. So let me go to my pools. So inside my pools, I'll change this status to delete status. Hold on, why am I not getting that? Okay, delete status, I didn't create it on here. Okay, so I'll call this one delete status. All right, cool. So this should work, and instead of having that continuous loading state that is just loading anyhow. So let's change this guy to delete status, and I'll come here and change this guy to delete status. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't think so. Yeah, that's it. So save it, and if we come here now and let's try to vote, 2 votes total. Let's vote on this guy. You can see it's updating 1%, 3 votes total, votes recorded. And if you come here, it's no more showing that loading state. Okay, but this is not what I want. One person is not allowed to vote so many times. Okay, you can only vote once, and that's it, except there's an undo button. Once you click on undo, it will remove your vote and then return the normal status, right? So what we need to do now is to go to okay, my home page, where we have this vote. So I'm going to loop through. Okay, I will say for var in votes in voters. Okay, so I will say if I dot think the voters has UID, right? So if UID is equal to the current user, okay, Firebase auth dot instance dot current user dot UID. No, this is too long now. So let's just create the user instance here. Okay, create the user instance there, and right here we're just going to create user.uid. So if it's equal to, for I in I, if UID is equal to user.uid, so we're just going to show error message and just say you already voted. Okay, so this works, and once you do that, you can just, yeah, that will be it. Else, and we can just then vote, add the new vote. Okay, so now if we click on this guy, we should see the error, you already voted. So you cannot vote twice, you cannot vote 2 times. Okay, you already voted. That's pretty much cool, and that's what we want, but it keeps calling continuously. Aha, okay, it's not supposed to call continuously. So I think we need to call return to just return the whole stuff instead of doing continuously. And this one, once you add, you call return as well. Okay, you already voted. So yeah, calls once and that's it. So this is pretty much all we need to do. So if you go to my pools, you should see the pools that you've added already. So let's try to authenticate with a new user to see if we can actually create a new pool. So let me log in with another user here. Okay, so this is going to be this other account. So let me authenticate. This is a different user entirely, but I think it still has the same name because on my Google account is more like having Destiny Ed. So, but with that, my pool should be empty. It's supposed to be empty. Yep. My pool is supposed to be empty because it's a different user entirely. It's a different user entirely. I think we did something wrong. My pools, let's see where I'm fetching that pools. Maybe I didn't clear something. Fetch user pool. So for I, if author user ID blah blah blah. Okay, so at this point we need to set users pools to an empty array, then is loading, set it to false, and call notify listener. So this works. So let's go back again. Okay, it's not working. Is it a network issue? Let's try to do a hot restart to see what happens. So that guy is not supposed to show. Let's add some return here to, since it's inside for loop, it's not going to be looping continuously. All right, no pools at the moment. All right, so let's see what happens when I try to vote. It's going to count for another user now. Vote recorded. All right, so now we have total votes to be 1%. So if another person, another user entirely votes for this same stuff, it's going to increment, right? Okay, so if you look here, and I can see voters has increased to 1, 2. It's not supposed to be 4 like this, so it's not a nice practice. Okay, votes recorded. They're still having some issues. If UID is equal to user.uid, you already voted. Okay, return. Awesome. Don't think I need else. So if I UID is not equal to user.uid, if IUID is not equal to user.uid, okay, then you can go ahead and vote. If UID is equal to UID, This is so crazy right now. This code is so crazy right now. It's not supposed to be happening like this. So, all right, let's try this again. All right, let's try this again. Let me vote and see. Vote recorded. This user has already voted. It's not supposed to show vote recorded. Yeah? Yeah, the user has already recorded. So this is some work. All right, so let me see if I can use all right, so let me check something to check if the UI user already exists. So let me say final is exist. So let me say voters dot first where to check elements. Okay, author UID is equal to, so it's going to get the first element, right? I just hope this works. Okay, UID. All right, so we check that is empty, right? Is this what we're supposed to check? First where element user ID is equal to UID. Then what about or else? I think this thing have or X, return null. Okay, I think more like an MTA function. I don't know. Nothing will happen. So let's see. Log is exist. I just hope this works. So we're going to check if it will search through the voters and search for the first occurrence where author and UID is equal to this guy, and then to give us a Boolean value, either true or false. Okay, it's more like a Boolean. Dot. I don't know if this will work, but let's try. Okay, serious error. The method this was called on null. All right, author UID. All right, let's see. Voter name UID. Okay, let's see dots. Something is not looking nice. Saying this UID was called on null. Auto. Oh, sorry, no auto inside the. Sorry. It's supposed to be UID direct. Think it's my bad. Okay, elements UID. Okay, so let's try that again. Okay, now something else is returning. Okay, type blah 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 is not a subtype of string. Okay. Okay, let's say to string. All right, so name. So that means it exists at B. Yeah, it exists. It does exist. So what we are going to do now is to check this guy, return it like this. All right. So swiftly, what we are going to do is to check if the is exist is equal to this guy. Like if it's empty, so we can just return no. Okay, if is exist is empty, you can just log user does not exist. Okay, that means the user have not voted before. Okay, so these are the points that we need to like add the votes. Okay, then else what we just need to do is to show the error, so we can just say you have already voted. Okay, so this would work. So let's see, you have already voted, so nothing happens because the user already exists. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and save this guy real quick. So this method didn't work, so get out of my code, get the hell out. All right, sorry for that word. Okay, so user does not exist, so we can actually go ahead and create that user, right? So let's see, you already voted, nothing happens, and just like that it keeps going. Okay, so let me try to log in with another account to see if that guy is going to show. Let's see if our user's poll is going to show. It's supposed to fetch. It's supposed to fetch. I think we are having some issues from this guy. For I blah blah blah. So since this guy now is not working, what we need to do, we still need to use our fetch for this thing. What we did here. Still going to do what we did here for this is exist. So this will work for us. So I will just copy this and go to fetch pool. So inside here, instead of using all these guys, just going to use data, change these voters to data, change this one to, no, we're not going to be saving, we're not going to be voting anymore, so we're going to change this guy too. All right, so comment this one for now, right? So see what happens now. We're going to check if the author, right, because that's what we are checking here. So if author UID is equal to user.uid, so it's going to tell us this guy, the body might complete normally, causing null to be returned by the return type. Okay, so what we are going to do now is just to return null in this guy. Okay. Okay, let's return. Okay, let's return this guy. Nope, it won't work. It won't work. So I think we're just gonna put some async. No. All right. So it wants us to return. If it does not exist, we need to return like an empty document snapshot, right? So let's go ahead and add an empty array. Okay, let's add a document snapshot. Something is wrong. I think it's giving us some hints of what to pass. Query document snapshot objects. Okay, this won't work. I think we are doing something wrong. Let's go with null for now. So this is not cool at all. I think I've done something like this before. Okay, I think we may not need that, so just use that exist, which is a Boolean value. let's see if this works. So if exist, because this returns a boolean value of true, so if exist is equal to true, that means that user ID exists. All right, this is like trying so many things. Okay, so if it exists, if the data already exists, what we need to do is more like getting the data and then returning it, right? If it exists, we just assign the data, which is this data, this users list. Okay, so if it doesn't exist, then what we just need to do is just to return an empty array, just to reset everything entirely. Okay, so this guy, I think is pretty much useless, so we're just going to remove it. Okay, so so I'm going to go back here and try to fetch again. But it's better I actually print this is exists to know what is actually printing out. Okay, my pools is exist true. Awesome. So this works, and yeah, we are good. So let me quickly try to log out and log in with the okay, let's quickly test with Android and see what happens. But I think I'll just need to run this one again to see, maybe for the last time. But while it's building, I need to just start up the Android emulator. Okay, so dismiss this guy. So we'll go back to yep, right. Let's test out the login again to see if it works this time. Okay, right. So we'll select the other account. And so yeah, so we are in, and my pools here, you can see the items are actually loading. So let's try to, okay, we cannot vote from here, my pools, so we can actually vote from this side, and you have already voted. So yeah, this is pretty much okay. So what we are going to do now, I'm going to go back and log in again. I'll try to log in with the second account and then try to create a pool with that account. Then we'll test out how the voting works again. All right. So inside here, I'm going to think this guy has already voted, so it won't work. So let me try to open a new question and post. So once it's posted, we can go back here and you should see it, which is this one. So let me try to vote as a user and see what happens, right? Yeah, it counted for us. But normally, I think what you need to do in your own case, you need to edit it in a way whereby a user that actually uploaded a poll should not be allowed to vote for that same item, all right? So that will work very well, right? And then if I click again, it's going to tell me you have already voted, all right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sign out from this account and try to log in again using the other email address and see if I'll be able to vote for that particular poll. So right here, I'm going to click on the same one, and it's telling me you have already voted. It's not supposed to. No way. No way. Which is I voted for this guy? Let me see. Maybe I used the wrong account. Let me use the second account, which is this one. I think actually I'm trying to vote with the previous account. You have already voted. This is not supposed to happen. So this guy has not voted before. Okay, all right. Let me print out what is happening here. Let me see the total votes. 8. This one is 1. Let me see the one that has a vote of 1. Total vote 1. Voters. I think there's only one person that voted, which is this SKK4C. All right, let me see that guy's UID from this side. SKK. All right, let me see the UID. Whoa, they're pretty much the same UID. All right, let me see the voter. SKK. SKK. Okay, C8F. So And let me see the authentication first. I think they are pretty much different users. So SKK was the first one, which is Talk to Destiny Ed, and the other one is not. So this thing is not supposed to show like this. So I'm going to quickly sign out again. So I don't know what is wrong. So let's try to log in again with this guy. Yeah. So far I think this guy has not voted, but it's still showing us. Okay, what will happen? Let's test out from the home page. Let's see during voting. Let me log the user ID. Okay, user.uid. All right, so this will work. Let's just see the UID of the person that is voting. Okay, so this person is actually voting. And why are we getting null? Where is null coming from? It's exist. It is returning null. Are you sure that is exist? Let's see. I need to know what is returning that null. Is exist null. Okay, so I think what I need to do, if is exist is equal to null, that means the user does not exist. I think yeah, this works. So if the exist is null, the user does not exist, then we can go ahead and vote. But if the user is, if it's not null, that means the user already exists. So you can just have this, you have already voted. So I believe it's actually better than the stuff I was using, which is able to vote now. Yeah, votes counted. So now if I try to vote again, to tell me that you already, seriously, it's not supposed to count that vote twice. It's still recording the vote. I think we are still having some issues right here, which is not supposed to be like this. All right, what I will do, instead of spending more time here, let's focus on the dynamic linking for now. And we are going to come back to this guy to fix it, to know why it's actually having voting multiple times, right? So the way the dynamic linking will work, it's once a user generates a link and share it to anybody, we're going to generate a UI user an ID, which is the ID of this particular post. And once the user clicks on that link, it will take them directly into our app. Then they'll be able to see the post, like the poll, and then they can vote from there. So I'm going to come back to this guy. This one is having this issue, so we don't want to spend much time. I think we're just going to leave it for the last bit. All right. So what we're going to do now is to go to, we're going to quickly go to our util class and create a new folder. I've already showed you guys how to use dynamic linking, right, in the past. Awesome. So we're going to go to the util folder and I will create a dynamic link util.dat. all right. So inside here, remember we already imported our dynamic linking, but for it to work, you need to go to your database, your console, and go to build. Not really build, I think it's more like engage. You should see dynamic links. So open it up, and from here you can just get started with it. So your domain, since we don't have any domain, we're just going to use the my pools, the page.link. all right. So go ahead and add that guy, and it will automatically be verified. So once it's verified, it will take us to this page. All right, so this is cool. And so we'll go over to our code base now, and I will just create a simple class, and I will call this dynamic link provider. Okay, so from here I'll just create a string. Remember I already showed us how to use this guy, okay, in the past. So we just have HTTPS, okay, and we can have this guy. So the link is going to be based on our package name. So let's quickly get the app package name from Android app build.gradle. Can we get it here? Yeah, we can get it here. All right, so we grab this guy, go back to your code base and paste it. So once we paste it, we also need to pass the ID. all right, So what we need to do is to pass the ID of what we want to send, okay, like the pool ID. All right, so we're just gonna, okay, I need to create the ID. Yeah, I need to create the ID that we need to pass. So for that, I'm just going to have something like a future of string. That is why a user is creating. We have a create link. So while creating the link, we are going to pass the ID, okay, inside it. And from there, we are going to create this link inside. So this works. The ID is just going to pass here. So we have a URI there. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create the instance of the dynamic link. So we have a dynamic link parameters. So we have a parameter, and I can go ahead and create this guy, dynamic. Okay, dynamic link parameters. And so inside the parameters, we have a link. So that link, I'm going to pass this link here. So it's more like the URI.pass URL, like so. And it has another URI prefix. So this URI prefix will be like more like this link that we have here already. So my post.page.link. All right, so I'm going to quickly add that guy inside there. HTTPS my pools, all right, /page, no, .page .link. So you want to make sure that it's actually corresponding with what we already have here. Okay, so it's actually corresponding. Awesome. So let's go on in my pools, right? Yeah, so it's actually corresponding. So we'll go on and create a iOS parameter. And so it's going to come like a constant. So we have iOS parameter, and we have the bundle ID. I think the bundle ID still matches what we have, which is more like the com dot blah blah blah. It's going to be com dot example dot my underscore pools. Okay, so that works. And after creating that, we are also going to create a minimum ID, the minimum version, which is going to be 0. So the next thing we are going to do now is actually to create the link, like the instance of the dynamic links. So we just have to have something like dynamic link, dynamic Firebase dynamic link. All right, so we have our link, and we'll call Firebase dynamic links, yep, dot instance. Okay, so this works. And quickly we are going to generate we're going to build a short link. So I'm going to call this pool link. All right, and I'll quickly create a wait, and I'll call the link, okay, dot build short links, and then I'll pass the parameter. So from here, once we create that parameter, I'm going to quickly return the ref link, sorry, pool link. I say ref link, I thought I'm building a referral system. All right, dot short link dot to string. I think one of these days I'm going to like create a referral system. Yeah, so moving on, I think we're going to create another one, which is to actually initialize the dynamic link. So I'm going to quickly create that as a future of string. Yeah, a future with a data type of the return type of string, and I will call this init dynamic link and a sync, and I will quickly create an instance of dynamic links. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just create instance link. Okay, like so, and I'll wait it, and I'll quickly call Firebase dynamic links dot instance dot get initial link. All right, so that works. And quickly I'm going to maybe create a string to just store the link once we get it, and just return it to the users. Okay, so for now it's going to be an empty string, and I'll just check if the instance link, okay, is if it's not null. Okay, so if it's not null, I'm going to quickly get the URI link inside. So having the pool link, okay, and I'll have the instance link dot link. All right, so that works. And quickly I'm going to get the parameter, which is this guy that we are passing here, this ID. So I'm going to have something like final. Okay, let me copy param, and I'll call pool link dot query parameters. Okay, so yeah, that's how you get the parameter. So then once I get the parameter, I'm going to assign the link to this guy here. Okay, so I'll say link equal to param, and I can go ahead and add the ID. Awesome, so that works. So moving on, what I need to do next is just to come outside here and return this guy. I'll just return the link. Yep, so yeah, that's pretty much it, what we need to do. So moving on, what we need to do next again now is more like to, because once a user clicks on this guy, once a user navigates through dynamic link, they should be able to see this stuff too, but it's going to be separate from this particular page. You get? So we're going to take them to a page where they will just view that particular pool. All right, so to do that, I think it's something we just need to like create. I think it's something we just need to create a new page for that pools. Okay, so it's going to be something like maybe outside these guys, and we just call it individual pool, like a separate page entirely. All right, individual pool dot that. So, and this one now is not going to be like a list because we are only returning one item at a time. So what I need to do is just to copy this guy that we have here, this my pools, because it's going to be like a similar stuff. No, not really my pools. So it's going to be like the home page pool, because the user will be able to like vote for that pool as well. Okay, so I'm going to grab that and go to individual pool. So I just have to change the name sorry for that, to individual pool, okay, page, right? That works. So quickly, I think once a user navigates to this page, what we need to pass is the ID that we get from the dynamic link, right? Yeah, it will require the ID. So I will need to make this guy required this.id. Right, sorry for that. So moving on, inside here, instead of fetching all pools, we are only going to fetch individual pool, right? And this is not going to be a list of lengths or whatever. We won't be checking for all this stuff anymore because we are only returning one item and the ID is going to be unique. Like quickly, I think we need to actually create more variables. So since the use individual pool is not returning list of other items, it's only returning one item, we are going to be using a document snapshot, and let's call it document snapshot, and we can call this guy individual pool. So for now it's going to be null. All right, so quickly I'm going to create another one again for the getter, call it document snapshot, and I'll say get individual pools, and quickly assign it, return this guy. All right, so this works, and quickly once we do that, I think that's pretty much all we need for that guy. So I'm going to quickly create another method just as we have for this one. We're going to create another method, and I'll give this guy like, okay, I'll be using this guy. Let me just duplicate this one. So it's going to be like fetch individual pools, okay, and from here we just have fetch individual pools, and it's going to require the ID, like the ID of what we want to fetch, string ID, and you know this ID will pass it from dynamic link to the class, and the class, when we are calling the function, will just get the ID from there. All right, so this guy now, since it doesn't return more like, what we need to do now is like saying pool collection dot doc, and then we'll pass the ID, and then we'll call dot get dot then value. So this value now doesn't return a list, okay? So we'll just check if value dot exist. Okay, so if it okay, let's say if it does not exist, so what we just need to do is more like to return If value does not exist, we can just return the value. I think it's going to be null in a way. So we're just going to return it over to our individual pool and set the status to false and all that. Then if it exists, we just have to still set it to individual pool or data, and everything works very well, pretty much fine. All right. And so that's what we need, all we need to do here. So it's going to search based on the ID and then return the response for us. Okay. Then going back now to where we have the individual pool. Once we pass the ID, what we need to do next is to fetch individual pool. Then we'll pass the ID, which is coming from widget.id. Okay, like so. So pools, I think we need to get pools that is loading and all that. So we don't need to check for this guy anymore because I don't think it's going to be empty. What about when the users delete this stuff? Yeah, so that's when you can actually check if pools dot individual pools dot exist. So if it exists, then we can actually return. Let's say if it exists. If it does not exist, sorry, then we can actually return no pools at the moment. That means the user deleted the pool or something like that. Then if it exists, we get this guy. So here now, instead of using .length, I think it's not necessary. So to be on the safer side, it's not really necessary to use this guy. So what we just have to do is to maybe return a 0. Yeah, since just return 1, since it's only one item that we are returning. Okay. So for this data, we can just return pools dot let's call it individual pools. Okay. So yeah, everything works pretty much fine the same way. All right. So now to initialize the dynamic linking, what we need to do is to go over to we're going to quickly go over to the navigate route. So when the user clicks inside splash screen, so what we need to do here now, because at the moment, once a user is not null, it takes them to auth page, but we don't want users that are not authenticated to still go to the splash to see the pool, right? We only want authenticated users. So in that case, what we need to do is to first of all check once the user is not null, we just check the dynamic links dot init dynamic link. Once we init, we're going to check then we can just check if the value is equal to an empty string. That means the user didn't open the app through dynamic link and all that. So what we can just do is just to navigate the user directly to main activity page, right? Yeah, so that works. And if the user already have something to show, we can just take them to the next page, which is the individual pools page. So inside here, we're going to pass the ID, which is coming from the value that we are passing from dynamic link, right? So once we get the link, we are going to pass it from dynamic link and everything. Remember, we are actually returning the link here from this init dynamic link. All right, so that pretty much works fine. So the next thing now we need to do is to go to yeah, so this pretty much works for dynamic linking, but we are going to restart it to test out everything out. So going back now to where we have to generate the link. Remember, we already created this create link. So to generate the link, we are going to go to where we have the share button, the share icon. So for individual pool, I believe we'll just need to try and remove the share button, okay, because I don't think it's necessary there. But for now, let's just leave it. I think it's something you guys can modify later using what I'm going to show you now. So they can only share from the home page, which is this button. Once they click, it's going to generate the link and it can be shared. All right, so quickly we'll go over to where we have the share icon. So inside here, I'm going to create a dynamic link provider and create link. So the ID now is going to be this post ID. So I'll be getting it from data.id and then just call .then. Then from .then we can call our share plus plugin .share. Then we can share the value. All right. So that works pretty much fine. Awesome. So once you click on this link, it uses internet connection, so you need to give it some few seconds to bring up the share button. I think I need to do some hot restart here. I don't know why it's not showing up. Let's try some hot restart. All right, so clicking on it, it should bring up the share button. All right, so this is so funny right now. So I'm going to try that again. If it doesn't work, I will kill it and try to rebuild the app one more time. So let's just give it some few seconds and to build, and then we can test that out. Oh, I think I'm building it for Android. Okay, let's test with the Android. Let's go ahead and test with the Android. So the Android is showing some errors, so we need to set compile SDK to 33. So to fix that, I'm going to go over to the build, and inside here, target SDK platform. I'm going to change it to 33 and also change the compile SDK to 33. All right, so save that up, and we are going to rerun it again. I think that's pretty much the error we just got now, so I'm going to rerun it again and see what happens. Okay, so we are also having another error. So the minimum SDK should be 19. That is because your app won't be available to use as only Android SDK, blah blah blah. So what's the error exactly? So Cloud Firestore requires a higher Android SDK version. So to fix that, we also need to go back to the build.gradle file, and the minimum SDK, we are going to change it to 19. All right, save it up and run it again. Okay, so while it's running, let's quickly see what we were doing inside the home page. Okay, another error. App requires multi-desk support. So I believe we have actually exceeded the 64K that is required. Okay, so we cannot fit requested classes in a single desk file. So we need to enable multi-desk support. All right. So to enable multi-desk support, how do I? Okay, so we'll go to our build.gradle file. So inside your build.gradle file, you will see your default config. So inside here, just type enable. Is it enable? Okay, I think it is multi-desk enabled. We set it to true. Awesome. So save that up and try to run it again. So far we got 3 errors from the Android build, and yeah, so let's see, and we fixed them. So let's see what happens this time. So yep, so the app is up and running. Yep, great. So let's try to log in with a new credential. So I'm going to log in with this guy here. So this is a new account entirely. So first of all, let's log in with this one that already has some pool inside. Okay. So it's fetching, and you can see the 2 pools, the 2 items already. All right. So let's see if we can actually share this guy. So see what happens. All right. So we are getting some errors here. So it's saying add a dependency for Firebase Analytics to your app to enable login on dynamic link events. Okay, so we need to actually add Firebase dynamic link. We need to add analytics to our application. So let's see how that will be done quickly. So I will locate my pub.dev to see if I can quickly grab Firebase analytics. All right, so I'm going to quickly add this guy into our prospect.yml file. So open a new terminal. All right, so once that is added, we're going to queue the app, and yeah, run it again to see if this time it's going to work. So just give it some few seconds. So while that is building, let's quickly look at while our build homepage is actually voting for multiple users. Okay, so we're going to see if we can fix that in few minutes. Okay, so I don't know, I really didn't test those functionalities initially, but let's see. Where is our voting guy? Where are we voting? Where are we voting? Where are we voting? Where are we voting? Okay, this is where we are voting. Okay, so we're going to see if the share now works. Share still doesn't work. Wow. Handling exception, Firebase, dynamic link unknown, com dot blah blah blah. Long link is not passable. So what are we doing wrong? Let's say I'll find dynamic link. The ID we are passing is from where? Let's go to the share icon. All right, so this is getting tricky now. So that value data.id. So this data is coming from this ID, right? Data.id, that is the ID of the particular pool. Yep, data.id.then value. So it's supposed to work. So we have our URI http. All right, so this is okay, https error there, com.example.mypool slash blah 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 id, will pass the ID, https my pools, okay, dot page dot link, com.example. all right, so I think everything is pretty much fine, but we didn't use the proper link here. So let me create that again to see if it works this time. All right, so try to generate again. Same error, on handle exception, long link is not passable. So build short link parameter. Okay, let's log the link to see what the ID is about. All right, so I didn't experience this guy. Yeah, that's the ID that we are supposed to pass, and this guy is supposed to work. That VM on handle exception, Firebase dynamic link unknown, blah blah blah, long link is not passable. HTTPS column, okay, URI preface HTTPS. We didn't add a column here, so let's add that and see. I want to believe that is the issue. So let's do a hot restart and see, because I didn't add a semicolon. And yep, let's see if the link will generate. Hooray, it did work. So okay, so once you select that, I think the next thing we are going to do now is more like to, okay, let me close the app and see what happens when I open the dynamic link. So I want to be sure it opens that particular page for us. So yep, okay, and let's see if it's going to open the single pool page. Awesome, this is great. So you can see it actually opened the pools page for us, the individual pool. So how do we know this individual pool? We are going to quickly add an app bar here. Okay, and call it title. So we are just going to pass the ID, okay, for widget.id to know what is happening. All right, save it up. Oh, we cannot save it, the app is already queued, right? So let's run it again one more time. So so far you can see how dynamic link works. You can actually use it to navigate a user to a particular page that you want them to go to, and yeah, so they can actually carry out, see that particular stuff you want. Referral is very good when you are building a referral system, very important. So if you want to know more about dynamic link, I have a video, so I'm going to put the description below. So let me see this other one, which is a different ID. Let's copy the link. So I will kill this app now, and paste it here, and let's see what happens this time. So it's going to take us to that page, and you're going to see the app bar now with the ID. Yeah, there's the ID, and hooray, you can see the post. So this is looking great, this is looking cool, awesome. So let's quickly build the app again. So this time we are going to check what is happening to our home page that is making it not to. So normally once a user clicks back, I think they should be able to go to the main activity. So for that bit, I think we're just going to wrap this guy with a wheel pop scope. So on wheel pop. So once a user taps, we'll just navigate them next page only. We'll take them to the main activities page, and here I'll just return a future dot value true. Okay, awesome, that works. So once the user navigates, to just take them to the home page instead of taking them back to that splash screen, it's not nice. All right, so we're gonna see what is wrong with this guy, because you have already voted. I think it's pretty much working fine now. Okay, think it's pretty much working fine. So let's try to log out and then log in with that new account that I've not used before, which is this. Let it load up first. This guy. So let's try to log in with this guy. All right, checking some info, and yeah, give it access. Continue. All right, so we just authenticated. I think so far this user has not added any pool, so we shouldn't be able to see any pool here. We are not supposed to see any pool here because he has not added any pool. So we are still getting the same issues. Let me do a hot restart. I think that guy is still cached in a way. This is how it's supposed to be. I think it's still cached in a way. And so for that, we actually need to work on the cache, but I will leave that task to you guys to work on, to clear the task, the stuff once the user does not exist. So just remove clear the items completely. All right, so moving on now, what we are going to do is to try to vote for this guy. So voting should work because this guy has not voted before, right? So let's see. Vote recorded. Okay, awesome. So let's check. Okay, this guy has not added anything. So right now I'm not supposed to vote again because I've already voted initially. So let's see if it's going to give us that blue error, that red. Wow, you have already voted. So it works very well. Okay, so this guy have not voted before. Let me see what happens. Vote recorded. Awesome. So this is pretty much great. It's so amazing. And yeah, so so far I think it works. We don't really have to touch anything. So if I try to vote now, it's going to tell me that I've already voted. Okay, so let me try to add a new pool for this guy and see people and post pool created. Let's go back to this guy, this bad boy. You can see the new pool. You can see a different user entirely. All right, you can see the. Okay, so some issues here. Some issues, so I think it requires now to do a hot restart for it to go out. No way. No way. It's not supposed to fetch other items for single pool users. So let's say my pool. Okay, so I think for us to fix this guy now, we need to do something. Okay, yeah, for us to fix this guy, we need to do something. Let's do everything entirely. Okay, so what we need to do now is to go over to let's go to where we add the pool. So let's go to our provider, DB provider. So what we are going to do inside of this author, we are going to have author ID. Okay, so that auto ID is going to be the user ID. So with this, it will enable us to actually query for that particular user. All right, so we have an auto ID. So once we are fetching the items, okay, this is an auto ID, right? So let me try to save this guy. Okay, save it. And I think there are so many things we need to fix here. So save it up, and we'll go to my pools. I'm going to add a new pool now. All right, so we're going to post a pool created, and you go over here, you should see your pool. All right, looking great. And you also see your own pool, right? So now I don't want other users to be able to fetch my own pool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to the fetch policy inside here. So where we have fetch user pool. So I think what I need to do in this case now, I don't have to go through all this string that I'm going through right now. So I just have to stick to this guy. Okay, this one will just work for us. So I'll be removing the whole of this. No, not really removing the whole of that. So I'm just going to have this guy. Okay, so for now, let me comment this guy out. So we don't need you anymore because it seems like it's breaking our app. So we have this guy. So inside here now, we're going to search based on where. All right, so we say where dot where. All right, the feed we want to search for, which is auto ID. Okay, is equal to then the UID user.uid. All right, so this should work. So let me do a hot restart, and once I go to the pools page now, it's going to return only the item concerning that is related to that particular user. Okay, where auto ID equal to user.id. Let me see something. Pools list, sorry, it's supposed to be users pools list. My bad. Okay, save it up. Let's try that again. All right, cool. So now since this guy's already added something and it's showing perfectly, so let me sign out and log out. Let me log out and log in with another user. Okay, so I want to see if that user will be able to see the other user's item. Okay, definitely you'll be able to see it inside home, but my pools you shouldn't be able to see it. Yeah, you're not supposed to see it from here because where you ID this if valid.docs that is empty. Okay, let me print. This is a little bit tricky here. So let me see what the response will look like. Instance of JSON. So let's get the data to see. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to debug to know what is happening. Instance of JSON data. So let's get the first index dot data. All right, so I want to see what is going on here. This is auto ID, and it's still printing out this guy. Then what's the ID of this other guy? Is he actually changing? What's the ID of this guy? Okay, this is the ID BA. It's kind of the same ID. Does it mean that this guy is not really signing out the user because it still has the same ID and that's why it's actually fetching it? Some issue somewhere. It's still having the same ID of that user because by default, once you log out, let's see our logout function. I think that's where the issue, the problem is coming from. Await Firebase as instant dot sign out. Then we turn true. yeah, it's actually signing out the user, which, oh, this is so rare. The user is actually out of. Okay, let's try again. This account is not supposed to see the other user. It should show empty. Now it's showing empty. It shows empty when we like restart the guy. But once we go back here, maybe sign out, except to call. Okay, I think what we need to do to fix this guy now, we're going to go over to where we have the account page. So instead of taking us to auth page, let it start from the splash screen. Okay, I think Firebase needs to actually clear the cache completely, right? So we're going to start from the splash screen and click on login, and this guy. So now we should be able to see the the post. Okay, so once we log out, it should take us to splash screen and need to do all this check, and so now we are sure that it doesn't exist anymore. Then let's go back again. So it's not supposed to show in any way. It's not supposed to show. It only shows when the user like restarts the app again. Is it from my emulator? So now it's not show again. So so far everything works for us. So everything works already. It's just this guy. So let's see the last bit, testing with simulator. I just want to make sure that this thing does not like show. So by default, once we sign out a user, it's supposed to go out. This is a bug from Firebase or what? It's not logging out the user completely. But if I remove try and catch, it's still not going to work. So let's say once you log out, it's just going to take you to the next page only, right? So let's try to do that for the puzzle. Okay, so let's try that again to see. All right, right now we should be able to see the pool. Okay, so let me sign out and use another account. Yep, pool. You're not supposed to show, because if you see Firebase, I think it's just from them, I don't know why. The UID, after signing out, the UID is still the same as the initial one that we have, previously. It's still the same, it doesn't change. So, and it's not supposed to be like this. So it's supposed to like replace it with the other one. So the only time it works is when you like maybe do a hot restart. And once we do a hot restart, that's when the UID will now be cleared completely. So I don't know why it's caching that guy. I don't know if there's a way we can prevent it from happening. You can see now, right now, the UID now is different from what we have. Like, it's now different now from this one. You can see it only works when we restart the app completely. Then that's when the UID changes. So this is more like a bug from the package itself. Yeah, I believe so. It's a bug from the package. So I think with that, I don't know if there's anything we can do to actually fix that error. But yeah, I think this is actually where we call it a wrap. If there's any solution to that, please let me know, and I will try to update the video. I will try to update the course. Okay, but so far we have tried. We have been able to create a pools application, and allows us to vote a pool. And that also allows us to do so many things, and all that. We can vote a post. We have been able to like restrict only one user to vote per time for one particular item. And we also worked on the dynamic linking, and it worked very well. So with the dynamic linking now, you can click on this guy. Okay, so let's say we clear out this guy. You need to close the app for it to work. Okay, so we post this guy here. So far dynamic linking works, and you guys have seen how to work with dynamic linking, how to use Firebase CLI to create a Firebase project, also how to use so many good things. Okay, so you can see you have already voted already, so it's not going to work. So once we click back, because I use the navigator.pool, I think I used next page only with pop scope, so it will just take us to the home main activity. All right, and okay, I didn't build this guy. Yeah, so I didn't build this one while testing that guy. So let me quickly build it again to just test to show you guys how it works. So let me switch to Android, and I'm going to build this app again to show you guys how it works. So far you guys have learned a lot. We've been able to go through a provider to see how to use provider and eliminate test states completely. And we have also seen how to share items, use various dependency in Firebase, dynamic linking, and you know, for you to actually use dynamic linking, you need to add Firebase, and you need to add this guy to your boxspread.yml file, which is Firebase analytics. And you have also seen how to format date using int package, how to use Google sign-in. So if you love this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment on anywhere that you're lost, and I will do my best to reply, and try as much as possible to share to your friends. And yeah, do not forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. But before I run, let me quickly test this guy out again. So I'm going to copy this guy, okay, and remove it. Okay, so paste, and yeah, here we go. So let's see what happens, and voila, it takes us to the individual post page. So from there, and we can actually go back. So once we go back, it's going to take us to the main activity page. Awesome. So this is pretty much it, and yeah, we are good to go. Thank you so much guys for watching, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you. You guys are actually the best. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe. Peace.